That's in your heart is never too much.
Check.
Too much, never too much, never too much. Somebody make some noise out there. I want to feel you up here. Come on. Yeah. I woke up today, look at your picture just to get me started. Girl, I called you up but you one day and I was broken hearted. I hung up the phone, came late about something negative. Walked in the door to my sleep Monday where you started. Who needs to go to work to decide for another partner? I'd rather be with you cause you made my heart scream and holler. Love is a game, only I'm so glad that I am winning. We come a long way and this is only the beginning of my love. Oh, baby, I want to see you, girl. 1,000 kisses from you is never too much. And baby, taking you back, yeah, we're taking you back. And I just don't want to stop. Oh, my love. A million days in your heart is never too much. Hey, I just don't wanna too much, never too much, never too much, never too much. Hey, come on. Hey,
Cocksure. C-O-C-K. Cock. Smoking dope and getting high.
hold on a minute.
6 against 1 and I wasn't begging for help.
Can you put your hands together for Jeff on the guitar tonight?
6 against 1 and I wasn't begging for help.
I want to know one thing. Where's all my old school people?
C-O-C-K. I did last night. I did. I'm so proud of myself. I wanted to do it again. The lesbian look-alike. Tell me if this isn't good radio. Oh yeah, you look real happy, dude. How many times a day are you smoking dope and getting high? How far behind are you on your bills? And by the way, who's your girlfriend dinking right now that you don't even know about? And who are you dinking that she don't even know about? And it looks to me like you got a pretty screwed up life, pal.
You surround beside me, baby, and I won't forget. I really love you, and you should know, girl. I'm gonna make sure you're right.
Cocksure. Smoking dope and getting high. We're having homo sex. And I won't forget. I won't be foolish, no. You should know, girl. The lesbian look-alike.
Before I let go.
And let her rip.
You know I thank God sunrises and shines on you. Girl, you know that's nothing I would not do. Right. But I got to come.
In 1930, the Republican-controlled House of Representatives, in effort to alleviate the effects of the anyone, the Great Depression.
Y'all sing with me. Say, do I do what you do? What you do when I do my love to you? Everybody, come on. Say, do I do what you do when I do my love? Stevie for your soul, party people.
You blew up in the bathroom. Poop. It was nasty.
When I sing, I go by. It is sweet. When you stand, shut up. In the crowd, your love talks to me so loud. Girl,
so apparently a lot of you guys are really fucking retarded or something. I don't get it. No politics, no political shit at all. No Trump, no Clinton, no Obama, no Bush, nothing. No pics, no gifts, no names mentioned. Stop. The next person who does it, you're banned. I'm not giving any more I'm not giving any more warnings. You will be fucking banned.
Just a minute. I had to say, do I do what you do? When I do, I let you. All right. Yes, I got some baby kisses for your lips. Yes, I got some money for the jacket. Give me a kiss for the love. Yes, I got some baby kisses for your lips. Yes, I got some money for the jacket. Give me a kiss for the love. Give me that bridge, fellas. My life has been waiting for your love. My arms has been waiting for your love to go by. My heart has been waiting. My soul anticipates your love. It's time for percussion, everybody. Y'all ready for percussion? Billy Mondragon, Polo Swagger, break it down.
Warning, the views expressed on this show are not those of Disneyland or any of its affiliated companies. This is a talk show that does not represent any single other organization or club. These are idiots talking about stupid shit. If you're under the age of 18, tune the hell out.
Hello there. So you found your way to Underland.
If I were looking for a white friend, I'd ask the man.
Really, I didn't think so.
But that's the point. If you don't think, you shouldn't talk.
Down the rabbit hole with idiots.
Well, Tom. Yeah.
I tested it though before.
Strike
the show.
one.
It's Tuesday, bitches.
Well, we have to be very civilized tonight, Tom. We are talking to the medical professionals about vaccinations.
Oh, that ought to go real well.
Oh, and for the record, the doctor he sent us a private message because he kind of checked into the show a little bit, and he said, "I have one request." He's all, "Can you guys just keep the segment with me on it a little bit clean because I'd like to share it with other people, and stuff." And so, you better get all your 4-letter words out now.
Fuck that.
Those are 2 very good 4-letter words. Back to back, Tom.
So who else here?
Tom's here.
Missy's here.
Stefan.
And I'm Jake. And we are talking to Tom. Tom, what do you know about vaccinations?
Vaccinations? They're good. I don't know. We got vaccinated I got vaccinated when I was a kid, except chickenpox. I didn't have the chickenpox vaccination, and I've never had chickenpox.
Well, if you don't have the chickenpox vaccination, doesn't that something tie in with? I mean, this is how stupid I am regarding this whole vaccination stuff, and I'm going to say a lot of stupid stuff tonight because I have no idea. But if you're not vaccinated, don't you have the risk of getting the shingles later in life or something like that?
Yeah. So when I was a kid, they didn't have the chickenpox vaccine. That didn't exist when I was little, and they didn't. So you just kind of parents had like chickenpox parties, like their kid got chickenpox, and everybody went over to their house and got chickenpox.
Sounds like a blast.
Well, I didn't have any friends when I was a kid, so I didn't get to go to a chickenpox party.
So you felt left out?
I was left out of the chickenpox.
Is that because you wore FUBU?
Could be. Not that little, though. No. So I don't know. I do not get the flu shot. That is the only shot that I do. That's probably the only vaccination I don't get.
Well, I'll tell you that. I got the flu shot one time, and I ended up the first 2 times I'd ever ended up in the ER was after getting the flu shot.
And I can contest to that. We witnessed that shit.
Yeah, shine that. I'll never get the flu shot again.
And I did it one year, and I was sick the whole winter because it was the wrong strain. Because they inject you with the flu.
It's like 50-50 chances, right?
Well, yeah, and they inject your body with the strain of whatever flu they think is going to be predominant that year. And if it's a different strain that comes out,
I don't like those numbers.
You're asked out.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, I don't like those. If they said 97%, okay, makes sense. 50-50?
But as far as everything else, I don't. I know there's a lot of hype that the vaccinations are tied to autism and Asperger's and different
Asperger's, like when Jack talks in the background with his mic open, like he's doing right now.
And he still has no clue.
He'd eat an Asperger, I can tell you that.
That'd be it.
Nothing. I had to mute your mic because it was on, and you're back there chattering and carrying on and talking with the mic right, about a foot from your face.
But I can't proclaim to know anything about it. I fortunately my kids, my kids aren't autistic. I didn't, they all came out healthy. So I really don't know. I'm not educated on that stuff. Maybe there's some truth to that.
Because there's some hard lines drawn on this whole vaccine thing.
There is, it causes a lot of issues.
I mean, there was that news story that you were just telling me about right before the show where this mother, her son was vaccinated, died from the flu. And she goes back to her Facebook, and she was totally harassed, and there was a bunch of anti-vaxxers saying that you killed your son because you got him vaccinated and all this other kind of nonsense. And that was on CNN today.
Yeah, trying to do the right thing to protect her kid from something that could kill them. And the vaccination ended up killing him.
Now, I know that we have coming on the show, we have Dr. Mackenzie coming on the show. Now, this isn't we are going to talk about anti-vaccine, but we have Dr. Mackenzie coming on the show, and Dr. Mackenzie is actually he's an expert in this, and he doesn't sound too pro-vaccination to me. He's actually a board member of the Physicians for Informed Consent Facebook group, which is a huge Facebook group which deals specifically with a lot about vaccinations, etc. Hold on, is your mic on?
On my side.
Okay, yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's a nonprofit as well.
Is it?
Physicians for Informed Consent, yeah.
And that's probably the premier group of physicians that actually discuss negatively about vaccinations.
From their perspective, the truth. Yes.
The truth. Yeah, so I was asking him a couple questions when we were doing that little not pre-interview, but just kind of a tech check, and he sounds like he's going to have some interesting things to say. Now, Brandon, were you vaccinated as a child?
I think so, yeah.
Did they have a trans black vaccination back when you were a child? Or
I honestly have no idea what kind of poisons I was injected with by the doctors as a kid.
Do you think you might be on the scale of autism?
I mean, I've been called worse.
Okay.
He's on the scale of something.
Did you vaccinate your kid?
I don't give him the flu shot, but I have given him the required vaccinations for school, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think, is there anybody in here in this room that is totally anti-vaxxer? Because there's like 1, 2, I don't know, there's like 10 or 12 people in here. Is there anybody that's totally, no, not at all? Okay. Who's saying that? Who's saying what?
Yeah, I'm anti-vaccination for my kids when they're young.
You are?
Yep.
When they're young.
Yeah.
So for
I'm
you,
not against vaccinations. I'd rather them be older so their bodies can take it and decide what they're going to do when they want to do it, that kind of thing.
Right.
It's even more so about their rights. It's just to protect them more.
Right. And I heard some other people saying that exact same thing today, that they're not necessarily anti-vaccination, but they don't understand why an infant that's 1 hour old needs a hepatitis B shot.
A lethal dose of mercury.
Yeah, which is something that doesn't even come into play until they're sexually active. You know, so they were arguing a lot about the timeline of vaccinations.
And I think that's become one of the big issues is the scheduling of because the babies can't fight off and they can't take anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you get sick, you can't take, they can't take antibiotics when they're a day old.
Mm-hmm. Steph, any experience with vaccinations? Any thoughts, any theories, any pros or against or anything?
I'm not versed deep enough into it to say that I'm anti or pro. I guess I'm pro making sure that the kids are healthy. I guess it's a shitty position for a parent to be in because that vaccinations right now are all involving big pharma.
Right.
It's a very obvious thing, and you know what big pharma's about. They're about the money. They don't care about your kid. And it's your responsibility to take care of your child and make sure that they're, safe and healthy and those sort of things. But if you're not a doctor and you're not a scientist and you're not a researcher, and, you're only getting information from what you see online and what's available to you, it makes it difficult as a parent to make the choice to decide whether you should or should not vaccinate your children. And that's scary shit because it could literally go either way. Obviously from the young lady whose child died from getting a flu shot, and then you have the kids on the other board who are dying because they are not vaccinated against measles and mumps and stuff like that.
I mean, some of these
things
I
don't have any kids right
that
now.
You're getting vaccinated for are no joke. Like it's not like you get it and it just goes away. Some of these things you get it and it will kill you.
I get it, but the thing is everything is hit or miss because even as a doctor, there's always a certain percentage of mistakes and things that can happen when you involve human. We're people. We always make mistakes. We're going to fuck shit up from time to time. So you're going to have horrible batches of vaccines and medicines and shit that are going to do the exact opposite of what they're supposed to do. And as a parent, when the person that you love the most in the world depends on you for 100% of life, and I mean that's eating, that's clothing, that's food, roof over the head, and all the other stuff that goes with it. Once again, it just makes it really difficult for the parents out there to decide what they should and should not do with their kids, and it's a fucked up position to be in. Because when we were kids, it wasn't really a big thing. I don't think it was. It
wasn't up for debate, really.
It wasn't a big pharma thing back then.
No, you just
there
went.
Wasn't a lot of money.
It was like you went to the doctor, and it's like, okay, you're going into 8th grade. You have to have these 5 shots.
There was no choice. Otherwise, you couldn't go to school if you didn't have your shots. Yeah, and then of course your parents don't want you at home all fucking day, so they're like, no, fuck no, you're going to school.
And I think the worst thing that ever happened to me was a kid when I was getting like the tetanus shot. your arm is sore for a day.
Well, I still get letters from the schools when my kids don't get they don't have the records of their vaccinations, even though they're up to date. Like my twins that are in 7th grade, we got papers saying, "Oh, well, we don't have these papers showing that they have the vaccinations. If you don't have them, they can't come to school."
Until you show proof.
Now, Jeff, you have like 25 kids or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And you vaccinated all your kids, correct?
All of them. The only one I won't do is that teenage one.
Yeah. What's so special about your teenager?
What is it? The HPV.
Oh, HPV.
Why?
Yeah.
What is that? I don't even know what that is.
My kid's doctor is my uncle, so he's the one that's always, I trust what he has to say. But even he said, you don't need that one.
That's for sexually transmitted diseases, right?
That's what I think, that you can get cancer or something like that.
Well, I hope not, because McKenna just had it.
We're well informed here. Yeah.
The HPV vaccine is to help to prevent you from getting human papillomavirus in the future.
And then there's another one for meningitis. That's a new one too. I don't think I had that
the
one.
meningitis. It used to be two shots in one.
No,
now
it's
you
three.
can get them separate.
Yep.
I don't know what that second one
Yeah,
is.
the HPV. McKenna just got the first round of it. She's a little behind. I didn't know because they never told us. So when we took her, she went for something else. It's like, oh, she's behind on some of her shots. I'm like, all right, which ones? They said HPV and like the other one, the one for meningitis.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, you're getting some shots today.
Boom, bam.
That's it.
I have a feeling this show is going to be freaking hilarious.
Except for flu. They're like, well, she hasn't had her flu virus. I'm like, yeah, we don't do the flu. We don't do flu shots.
Screw that flu thing. Anyways,
Nope.
all right. So, but Steph, you have a sister that's anti-vaxxer, right?
I do. My nephew's just celebrated his first birthday. He's happy. He's healthy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, she's one of the ones who, she just truly believes that they are, and we've discussed it a few times over, because I'm always worried, like especially with all the shit that's floating around now in Oregon and everything making its way south of the border. And then, of course, all the people we have coming from south of the border who,
That's getting racial already.
No, it's not racial, but I mean, it's obviously it's the fact that they're not going to. Their routine there is going to be a lot different than what it is in the States, and I can almost guarantee you that they're not going to have too many issues with like schools and shit. Like, oh, your kid can't come to school because they don't have this shot, that shot, or something related. It's.
Well, I heard somebody talking today, and we should just get the doctor on the phone now to set all of our speculation straight. But I heard somebody talking today that one of their friends from California, their daughter had leukemia and was advised heavily not to get vaccinated. And that there's some law, I'm not familiar with it because I'm not dealing with kids in school these days, but they had to pay $1,000 for their child to attend the school. It was like a $1,000 fine just for their child to attend public school without vaccinations.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, who gets that money?
California?
There's another, I don't know where it was. I read another article today where it said that a school district is shutting down extracurricular activities for kids that aren't vaccinated, and that group of people is now suing. They're trying to sue the school board.
So wait, so if so it's the kid's fault that the parents are not vaccinating them, and now they can't enjoy what the school has to offer?
Yeah, because it was some town. I don't know if it was Kansas. There was a an epidemic.
We're taking away wood shot from you fucks if you don't get your shot.
There was like an epidemic of like mumps or something like in this community because there's so many anti-vaxxers that they're shutting the kids that are not vaccinated can't partake in
that's
sports
big
and
in
stuff
Oregon.
like
I
that.
hear a lot of that shit going on in Oregon. Measles and mumps and shit like that up there.
You know what? Let's just go ahead and bring since we're already deep into this and we didn't veer off track too much. Dr. Mackenzie, are you on the phone? Dr. Mackenzie.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right.
So
how you doing?
We're doing very good. So Dr. Mackenzie, I want to come with you. I don't want to come with you anywhere, but I want to say
Does that mean at the same time?
No, Dr. Mackenzie, I want to say pretty much I am so uneducated when it comes to vaccine that I know nothing about the anti-vaccine movement or the consequences of vaccines. So for a potato head like me, how do you
you're just like most doctors, so don't feel too bad.
That's scary.
So what's your general opinion of today's situation regarding vaccinations?
Well, I think, the thing that I'm concerned about most, especially lately, is the climate that we have in the United States, where people are getting persecuted for their beliefs. They're not being allowed informed consent. They're not being allowed to opt out of vaccinations. In California, you can't go to school now unless you're fully vaccinated. In other words, the personal belief exemption that exists in 47 other states was taken away a few years ago. So, I'm very concerned about the rights of parents and the rights of individuals that are quickly being taken away, and this whole climate of censorship. I don't know if you guys are aware of that. In fact, I saw you on Facebook earlier today, and you'd mentioned how you were going to maybe go to Amazon and live stream Vaxxed, and I was wondering how that went for you.
Yeah, I didn't have a chance to do that. That was that was my eye in the sky trying to get that through. But I didn't get to do that today. But I will take some time to watch that. But let me tell you something. If you had tried to do that, you wouldn't have been able to. And you know why? Because they took that off Amazon.
You can no longer stream Vaxxed from Amazon, and the reason is because people like Adam Schiff, who I think you probably know who he is, a congressman in California. They are putting heavy pressure. There was a letter that he sent to Jeff Bezos and Amazon to basically censor. This is modern book burning right here. This is Adam Schiff is like the Joseph Goebbels of the United States right now, and they're putting major pressure on social media and whatnot to take those off. You can get the DVD still. You could buy the DVD, but you cannot live stream that. That's just one example. There are many.
Well, before we dig into it too deep, let me just take like a general perception that's out there where I hear a lot of people saying, well, if they're not going to vaccinate their kids, I don't want them near my kids. I don't want my kids getting sick from their kids that are unvaccinated. What is the real possibilities that are going on with that whole idea?
Yeah, it's very complicated, and we kind of have to dive into individual vaccines to flesh it all out. I mean, many of the vaccinations that are required aren't even communicable, right? You can't even get them from one kid to another kind of thing. You take something like hepatitis B, that is, it's communicable if you're an IV drug abuser or a prostitute, that kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. But not many one-day-old babies are IV drug abusing prostitutes. So to mandate a one-day-old baby getting a hepatitis B vaccine when the mother's been tested negative, right? As most people are, they're all tested, is just pure insanity. So, that's an example.
So what are your thoughts on why that I guess these vaccinations are pretty much, they start with their government mandated, right? Or government proposed?
Well, they're
why are they pushing a hepatitis B vaccine on a 1-hour-old infant?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. I'd like to know, but basically the mandates or the recommendations come from the CDC. Okay, so there's a panel of experts, luminaries in the field. There's a commission on immunization practices. So they meet twice a year, I think, and they go through the vaccines and they make changes to the recommended schedules. Now, all these people, you think that they have no conflicts of interest. They're only in it for the public good. Well, you'd be very wrong. They have intense industry ties, pharmaceutical money. They often have skin in the game with the actual vaccines. In other words, they've made money from them. So they're not an objective group. And so they make these recommendations. And then, of course, the American Academy of Pediatrics, the American Academy of Family Practice, they just fall in line because they're all bought off by the pharmaceutical industry as well. And then these recommendations become policy at the state levels, right, where they can. Certainly, individual pediatricians fall in line following their professional society. And in the case of California, for example, these get codified into a state mandate by basically taking away people's right to opt out of them. So that's kind of how the process goes.
Now, in California specifically, because I believe you're Santa Barbara based, but in California specifically, if a parent doesn't want to vaccinate their kids, what kind of option do they have? I heard somebody earlier telling me today that they had a daughter that had leukemia, and all the medical doctors advised heavily that they should not vaccinate this child. And I heard, now I don't know if this is rumor, I'm sure you're up on this, but they had to pay like $1,000 almost fine in order to bring their daughter that was unvaccinated into the public school system.
That, I don't know. That doesn't make sense to me. I don't think that schools can charge some kind of fine and get away with that. That's not in any kind of policy or statute that I'm aware of. I've not heard of that. Now, if a girl's got leukemia and she's presumably immunocompromised, perhaps, certainly during maybe her treatment that she's getting, then she would be she could get a medical exemption, and so then she would be she could go without the vaccinations. However, even kids with treatment for cancer and whatnot, when they're not getting their acute treatment and when they're no longer considered immunocompromised, then they're supposed to get all the vaccines too. So.
Now, you're a board member with the Physicians for Informed Consent, and that's a big group on Facebook, et cetera, but that's a legitimate organization, Physicians for Informed Consent. What is the message that the Physicians for Informed Consent is trying to bring to the table?
Well, we are opposed to mandatory vaccinations. Okay, that's number one. We're opposed to any mandatory medical procedure, but in the United States, that happens to be vaccinations only. And our goal is to educate doctors and patients, to educate the public about vaccines, about their rights, about their and to help them navigate the system, the rules that are in place. So many parents have all kinds of questions about getting their kids in school and which vaccines they need and when they need to get them and all that kind of stuff. We help them out with that, so that kind of thing.
Now, for you, I don't know your situation if you have kids or not, but if you were to have a child today, is there any vaccinations that you would, because obviously you've read up and you've studied this in detail, is there any vaccinations that you would allow for your child today? Well, I think that you could consider some that have some benefit, but all of these vaccinations have risks. And so I probably would not be favorable to any of them at this point. Now let's say my kid was 14, 15 years old and was unvaccinated and said, hey, Dad, I think I want to become an IV drug abusing prostitute. I'd probably say, you know what? Maybe go get the Hep B vaccine. That might be a good idea. But be short of that, probably not. Probably not. And what are some of okay, so you've obviously weighed this in your own mind. And what are some of the risks that you take with in this hypothetical child situation that we're talking about, unvaccinated? What are some of the hypothetical risks that you are taking by not vaccinating a child at all? Well, sure. That is you have to weigh that risk and benefit. So let's take measles. Okay, so measles is certainly a controversial one, and it's not an easy one to discuss, really. It's easier to talk about Hep B or HPV or the DTaP, which is for pertussis, but let's take measles. So getting the measles, okay, is by and large, for most people, not a big deal, all right? Back in the day, in the early 1960s, everybody got the measles. Now, did some people die? Yes, some people died. So is there a risk of death? Is there a risk of a type of chronic brain damage after measles? Yes. But there's also a risk of the vaccine, and there's a risk of the vaccine along with all the other vaccines together. Okay, but let's go back to that 1962 or thereabouts, before the measles vaccine came into place. You got to realize that 60, 70 years prior to that,
measles was very deadly. And measles, the death rate from measles dropped 98% before there was ever any vaccine. Now, this is true with many of the other ones too, pretty much all the other ones, right? Diphtheria, pertussis, whooping cough. Okay, so it was still the death rate was still kind of coming down steeply, right, into the late 1950s, early 1960s. Then the measles vaccine came on board. Now, it didn't really get going until about 1967, 68, okay, when pretty much everyone started getting immunized against measles. By the way, that was just the single measles vaccine. Okay, the rubella and the others didn't come along until later. We get a triple vaccine, MMR. So, if there had never been a measles vaccine, how do we know, do we know what the death rate would be at this point, 2019? No, we really don't. We can only speculate, but the curve was still coming down. So now we don't really have any very rare deaths from measles. We do have deaths from the measles vaccine. Okay, so it's probably on an order of about 100 per year.
Now that's
not to mention,
that's what I wanted to ask you, because you're talking about the drawbacks for not getting the measles vaccine. But what are the drawbacks of, what were the negative side effects that you see in the measles vaccine that you're avoiding? So measles vaccine, and I don't want to just pick on MMR, because you kind of have to think of the spectrum of a vaccinated child being bombarded, right, with vaccines from the day they're born until they're out of school, basically. There's like 72 vaccines, okay? 20, 30 years ago, there were about 25, all right? So the number of vaccines that kids are getting is huge. So you can't just pick out MMR, the measles vaccine. But that being said, the measles vaccine has been associated with neurodevelopmental problems, including autism, encephalitis, other autism spectrum kind of disorders, autoimmune issues. So, those are kind of the things that are really kind of creating a health crisis in the United States with our kids. And nobody would argue that children are much sicker than they were years ago. I mean, I think everyone agrees. They just, the question is why. Right. Now, regarding that, do you think that because, okay, I was reading some, I'm just online, I'm just skimming through articles I run across. I ran across one article that said that there's no conclusive scientific, reputable scientific experiment or research finding that links autism to vaccination. But you're sitting here telling me that. I mean, what I'm saying is, you're telling me about all these autism cases and stuff like that. Is there information that you believe that is out there that is being swept under the rug or hidden, or the government sweeping it under the rug? Yeah. There's plenty of research. There's plenty of research in animals, in people. There are studies that don't get published in the big journals. Okay, so these are like independent researchers that don't have pharma money behind them, because pharma money is not going to fund these kinds of studies. So they're typically smaller studies. They get in smaller journals. Because they get in smaller journals, they're criticized because of that, not because the science is bad, but because they're not in JAMA or the New England Journal of Medicine or the Lancet or, those kind of top-tier journals. But those top-tier journals are also the ones that are basically captives of the pharmaceutical industry. So, yeah, there's a book. I mean, one of the things that, I'll stress to you is, you got to kind of get out and read stuff. But there's a book that was put out several years ago called 400 Critical Vaccine Studies. And it's good because it looks at studies and breaks them down into easily like one-page summaries of them. And it's all about studies that are not talked about on the media, that the medical establishment doesn't want you to read. And yeah, they go through this.
go through this in detail.
Now, why is there a government cover-up? I mean, is this just strictly 100% about Big Pharma throwing their weight around and it's a dollar sign? Is that the whole reason behind this cover-up, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, there's money involved, but there's also just hubris and arrogance. You know, you go back to 1986, and there's a terrible law on the books that Congress passed in 1986, the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Compensation Act. And in the 1980s, the pharmaceutical companies making vaccines, particularly the pertussis vaccine, the DTP shot at the time, there were a lot of kids getting injured from that vaccine. Okay, so they were getting hammered with lawsuits, and they basically went to the government and said, "Look, we either need protection or we're going to stop making vaccines." So the government in 1986 passed this law, basically gave the pharmaceutical industry blanket immunity for vaccines. So, you know, if you have a problem with a drug, all right, and you get injured from a drug, you can sue the company. You get injured with a vaccine, you cannot sue the company. Okay, so what happens is if you or your kid get injured by a vaccine, you have a very limited time to submit a complaint to basically the Department of Health and Human Services, okay? That's the federal government. And they're under the DOJ. They have their own DOJ lawyers. And you go in front of them, and if your kid falls into very specific guidelines under what are called table injuries, they have literally a list of table injuries. Then you may get compensation for that. So there's this they've taken away the whole kind of due process, trial by jury, justice system for people that have been harmed by this. So and since then, right, they haven't had the kind of incentives to improve vaccines, right? They haven't had the incentives to improve vaccines to make them more safe, right? This is why you were asking me before if I would consider vaccines. Well, you know, maybe if they had been making them better and safer, but they're not. There's no incentive for that, and they haven't been monitoring it. Congress had told them every 2 years, HHS needs to report to Congress and tell them how vaccinations, the vaccine industry, are improving their product. Since 1986, it's never been done. And they recently, there was a lawsuit against that put forth by Robert F. Kennedy and others, and they basically admitted to it. And so that kind of explains to you how our vaccines just have not been monitored. And so, but now they've got this situation where they can't back out. You know, they're doubling down on this. They don't want people to look behind the curtain like we're trying to do and say, look, these things have serious risks, and they're underreporting the risks, they're overblowing the benefits, and nobody's doing anything about it at a policy level.
Now, let me ask for
academic level.
Let me ask for a little bit. You keep throwing "they" out there. Now, when you say "they," are you referring to Big Pharma or the government?
Yes,
both.
I mean,
both.
Basically, I mean, look, the CDC and the FDA are part of the government, right? Big Pharma has executives, has doctors on their payroll, the same doctors that are at the CDC or on the advisory panels at the FDA. So, you know, it's a very incestuous thing going on. And then, of course, pharma has the money to buy off politicians at the state and federal level. So, yeah.
Tom?
Let me ask you. So the big question that comes up is if the people that are vaccinated, if there are people that are not vaccinated that are coming around them, how are they at risk to get sick?
So certain things are very contagious. Okay, measles is very contagious, right? So just being vaccinated, however, doesn't guarantee that you're not going to get measles. All right, so there have been many outbreaks of measles in populations in schools where the vaccination rate was well above 95%, 97%, sometimes 100%. There are outbreaks in China where people are 100% vaccinated. So just being vaccinated doesn't guarantee that you're not going to get sick. And sometimes, another thing is, sometimes these outbreaks are the vaccine strain of the measles. In other words, it's not a wild type measles, it's the vaccine strain. Okay. But if you were not vaccinated and you were exposed to someone with measles, yeah, you'd probably get it if you were in reasonably close proximity to them. Okay. There again, I mean, measles is a pretty self-limited disease. It's best to get it when you're a kid, not a little kid, but like the age when people used to get it routinely, between like 3 and 10 years old or something like that, 3 and 8 years old. It's worse when you're older, but you can go back and we've been gaslighted to think that measles is this horrible, dangerous disease. But if you go back and look into the windows of the culture of the 50s, okay, there's a Brady Bunch episode, a Flintstones episode, I think in Father Knows Best episode, where they have measles as one of the topics, and it's like a joke. It's like the kids in the Brady Bunch are all happy they got measles because they're out of school for a couple of weeks, right? I mean, that's the way measles was thought of back then. Well, but now it's like, oh my God, measles! People freak out.
We were talking about chickenpox earlier. Like, I've never had the chickenpox. I've never been vaccinated. When I was a kid, they didn't have the chickenpox vaccine. Now they have it. You can get it as an adult. I just haven't done it because you forget when you go to the doctors. You're generally going for something else, and you forget to say, "Hey, while I'm here, can I get the chickenpox vaccine?" But when I was a kid, they had chickenpox parties. Like, you would go to your friend's house who had chickenpox with 10 other kids, and guess 10 people had chickenpox. And you just got it got it over with.
I think in Germany they still have measles parties. I mean, measles was the same way in some cases. So, I mean, there again, I mean, chickenpox was like a non-issue. Okay, like everybody got the chickenpox pretty much. There were about 50 deaths a year in the United States with chickenpox. Okay, so there's a few people that died. Okay, now what's happened? So let me back up. So there was never an argument when they brought on chickenpox vaccine several years ago. There was never an argument that, we got to do this to save 50 people. Okay, because they knew there was going to be problems with the vaccine. Some people were probably going to die from the vaccine. So that was never the argument. The argument was an economic one. The argument was an economic one. In other words, like, hey, you know what? Get your kid the chickenpox vaccine because you know what? If he gets chickenpox, you're going to be home from work. He's going to be home from school. You're not going to be able to go to work for a couple of weeks, right? So there was this economic argument. Okay, what's happened is things have shifted. Now we have this huge increase in shingles, right? It's the same pathogen, but it's in adults. And you hear all about, you've probably known people, maybe older people, relatives or whatnot, that have gotten the shingles. That's like the rate of shingles has skyrocketed in the U.S. Now that is a really brutal thing for an adult, okay? So the whole economic, and there's about 100 deaths from that at least in the United States every year, okay? So they traded chickenpox for shingles. And the economic impact that's had is enormous. I mean, way more than chickenpox ever was. But there again, they're not gonna admit they screwed up. Okay, they're going to double down on this and say, this is just they're going to sweep that under the rug. They're not going to talk about that and face it and back off because they can't. They don't want to admit that they made a mistake or that the whole vaccine policy wrong to begin with.
Wait, let me get this straight. You're saying that, so basically, Big Pharma spent millions and millions of dollars to lobby the government to start kicking out these vaccines, something like chickenpox that recently showed up, to double the death rate?
No. It
used to be 50
not to
people.
double it. No, they didn't do that purposely.
No, not purposely. Let me rewind just a little bit. Not saying that they did it on purpose, but that was basically the effect of everything. I mean, they paid all this money, they got the government to start kicking out these vaccines, and then they figured out that people are dying at a higher rate than they were years ago. Because I mean, you were saying 50 people, and then it bounced to 100 when it turned into shingles for the adults and stuff like that. To me, it seems kind of counterproductive.
Yeah, well, right, exactly. It's counterproductive, and that's the death rate. The morbidity rate is even worse, which is why it's become an economic a huge cost, more so than the chickenpox ever was. So.
And I know there's a big focus on the MMR vaccine. That's the one that really people hone in on in terms of when they talk about it potentially linking, autism and Asperger's, or even the autism spectrum. That it's linked, that a lot of people think it's linked to that specific vaccine.
Now, let me ask you something real quick. Well, go ahead. Have you had a response to Tom? I thought it was more of a statement.
Yeah. So. Yeah, it very well may be. I think that more importantly, though, you got to look at MMR in the context of it's probably a synergistic thing with the other vaccines. Okay, so what we haven't talked about is the aluminum adjuvant. Now, MMR does not have the aluminum adjuvant, but many other vaccines do, including the Hep B vaccine, the DTP, which has the pertussis. HPV, horrible vaccine. So, but that's later in teenage years. But so that an adjuvant is something that kickstarts the immune system in a killed virus or a killed virus situation. So not a live virus. So in other words, like your Hep B, the DTaP, if you just gave those vaccines with no aluminum, not much would happen. The body would just like sit there and say, okay, whatever. You put the aluminum with the antigen, okay, the antigen's like the Hep B, right? That like tells the immune system to go haywire and attack what's there. In other words, like make antibodies and whatnot to the antigen, which is the Hep B vaccine. The problem is that the aluminum is neurotoxic. It's horrible. Okay, and it gets taken up by the macrophages. It goes to the lymph nodes, and where else does it go from there? It goes to the brain. Okay, so I mean, you see kids with, there have been studies where you take, there have been kids with young adults that have died from autism. They've actually looked at their brains, and they have like aluminum in there, like an old lady with Alzheimer's. Okay, it's so we know that it crosses the blood-brain barrier. Well, MMR also stimulates the kind of inflammatory cells within the brain and whatnot, and there's probably a synergistic effect. So it may also be a problem by itself, but when you kind of are putting it in the system, in the system where the kid's been exposed to aluminum adjuvant and maybe even thimerosal, that's been taken out of most vaccines in the United States. You got a pretty deadly combination.
Now, I have a quick question. As a child, were you vaccinated and you became a non-vaxxer later in life? Or was it like a family thing and you guys never vaccinated?
Well, first off, doctor, were you vaccinated as a child?
And if you were vaccinated as a child, what made you become a non-vaxxer?
Well, I mean...
Like, that's what I'm saying.
Well, it's his research.
Yeah, but I'm saying, was he not vaccinated as a child? Or was he vaccinated as a child?
So I'll tell you what, I was vaccinated. I was.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I was vaccinated. I mean, it's interesting that I do remember my father because he was kind of an iconoclast and didn't trust the government. So I probably get a lot of that from him. But I remember in the swine flu situation in 1979, I think it was. I don't know if some of you are old enough to remember that, but There was this big panic about swine flu, and you're shaking your head.
Yeah. Some of us are. Some of us are.
I was pretty young myself.
Not me.
But I do remember this. So there was this big, it was on the news, like, oh my God, there's going to be so many deaths from swine flu. Everybody's got to go out and get their swine flu vaccine. And he was like, there's no way, we're not getting that. Turned out, like, I think one guy died on a military base of the swine flu, but a whole bunch of people died from the vaccine. And then way more than that, were permanently injured with neurologic problems and Guillain-Barré syndrome and whatnot. So, but to answer your question, yeah, I was vaccinated. In fact, I was in the military until 2012. And if you know anybody in the military, they vaccinate a lot, right? They're always vaccinating. I got all my vaccines and more. I got more vaccines than most people get, including yellow fever and typhoid and whatnot.
So you're like the Hulk.
Military. So what's that?
So you're like the Hulk. Basically,
well, I don't know. Just think what I'd be if I hadn't gotten all those vaccines. Maybe a little smarter. But anyway, yeah. So that was 2012. I started kind of researching this, in 2014 or something. But I was a doc. I was actually in the military. I was in the Air National Guard, and I was a supervisor for the immunology section. Now, what all that meant, it sounds impressive, but all that meant was I kind of supervised the room where the members would go to get their shots on the weekends. Okay, now these were all adults. There were no children. But that's where we would go to get the immunizations. And once in a while, someone would ask me what I thought about immunizations, especially if they were going off to Afghanistan or something, and we did not give the anthrax vaccination. They got that when they were deploying, so I was never involved with that. But sometimes they would ask me about that, and I just gave the party line. I was clueless. I was like, oh, don't worry about it. No, it's going to be great. No, they're safe. Never any problems. 1 in a million. That's the standard line. There's 1 in a million chance of having any problem, right? So. I separated in 2012 and then just started doing some research because I heard about Andy Wakefield. You know about Andy Wakefield,
no,
you guys?
I've never heard who Andy Wakefield is.
Really? Okay.
No.
So Andy Wakefield was a British physician he was a GI physician. And in 1998, he and about 11 other authors published a study in The Lancet talking about 12 patients that they looked at, children with autism, who had gastrointestinal problems, severe gastrointestinal problems. And they studied these kids and did pathological biopsy samples of their intestines and found the measles vaccine, the vaccine version of the measles in the intestines, right? So they basically said, well, this is really interesting and concerning, and we recommend that further study be made on this. Well, shortly thereafter, Andy Wakefield went on, I think it was BBC, and had the temerity to say that he thought that they shouldn't be getting the MMR vaccine, and that they should only get they should separate out the vaccines, the measles, mumps, and rubella. Well, the companies that made them in Britain had just kind of taken off those individual vaccines. So anyway, it caused a big stir, so much that the press and the medical establishment in Britain just crucified him and took his license away, put him in front of the General Medical Council Board in Britain, which was kind of like a court, and basically just destroyed his career and his life. And he was later on exonerated by the UK High Court. But to this day, I mean, if you read any vaccine article in a newspaper or a magazine, almost invariably they have a paragraph in there. I swear to God, these articles are ghostwritten, or they're plagiarized from other articles, because there's almost always a paragraph about Andy Wakefield, and it starts out like a former disgraced Dr. Andy Wakefield, who conducted this fraudulent study of the MMR vaccine in 1998 and caused caused the vaccination rates to plummet and blah, 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 and basically blame this guy for everything that's happened in the last 20 years with the anti-vax movement. So that's Andy Wakefield. If you look into this stuff, you'll see his name. And so I was hearing about him, and I was like, this is crazy, because they were Sanjay Gupta and Anderson Cooper. They were interviewing him on TV, and I watched these interviews, and they never let him get a word in edgewise. And they were just, it was like, who is this evil guy, Andy Wakefield, you know? So I found out, wow, he wrote a book. So I actually bought his book, and I read his book, and I was like, holy shit, you know, this guy got railroaded.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, it just, I wanted to give the guy his day in court because nobody else was. So I read his friggin' book. And, but the book didn't really tell me much about vaccines. It just got my interest piqued. So then I started reading books about vaccines, and that's kind of when I really woke up.
Now, we have some questions from the people that are watching live right now. And one of the questions from Michelle was, I would love to know if he has any peer-reviewed publications to recommend regarding MMR and autism. Is there anything?
You know what? Yeah, good. You know what? Most of my books are at my office, but I've got one book here, and I could go through the references and find you those peer-reviewed articles. But I'm going to suggest a book that people should read, and I'm going to hold it up and show it to you. And this is about the autism epidemic, and it's got great reviews. It's got a great reference section. It's not too crazy, and it's a nice book to read. It's called How to End the Autism Epidemic by J.B. Hanley. It was published recently. I don't know J.B. I don't get any, kickbacks from the book, but I just think it's a really good book to be your first book. If you're going to read one, you don't know anything about the subject, read this one. It's up to date. It's easy to read, but well informative, and it's well written and entertaining. So.
And I kind of have a broader question for you, and maybe you haven't really studied this particular angle, but I'm kind of curious on more of the global perspective as far as other countries. Do they vaccinate as much as us? And I'm also curious if you've done any research for countries that do minimal vaccinations that are doing a lot better than what we are, specifically regarding things like autism. I know that's a big question.
So, someone else have a question?
No, that's just mine, about the global, how America's rating in the global market regarding all these vaccinations and autism.
Sure. So, it's very different to speak about the United States, or let's say the Western industrialized world, and the third world, okay? Very different situations. So, people often, bring up the third world and say, well, they love to get their vaccinations and blah, blah, blah. Well, that may be true, but, realize that their health systems and their nutrition system are much different. And so, they often have higher rates of problems, of polio and measles. And, when they get these things, they have a higher rate of morbidity and mortality. So it's hard to compare the two situations. As far as Western world, I think, the United States, Britain, and Australia probably have the most aggressive immunization schedules. All right. Other countries do not have nearly I wouldn't say do not have nearly, but have a significantly less aggressive schedule, meaning that some vaccines aren't even recommended, or they're recommended at a later age, spread out longer. So those would include the Scandinavian countries, Japan. I mean, Japan pulled HPV. Okay, Japan also has measles, mumps, and rubella separated, so they're not, they have the option of not having a trivalent vaccine. So So a lot of these other countries, and a lot of them aren't as aggressive forcing it on people. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now we're very aggressive, the land of the free. We're the ones shoving it down people's throat the most. Well, Australia is pretty bad too. Some of them are getting bad, but an interesting thing is the small studies that have been done looking at unvaccinated people versus vaccinated, it's very clear. Much healthier kids, unvaccinated. Now, people will say, well, those aren't peer-reviewed studies or they're not in journals, but there was a study called the Mawson study, I think a couple of years ago, about not a lot of people, about 650 people, kids, but vaccinated, unvaccinated. It was published in one journal, and they took so much heat that they retracted it, and it was ultimately published in another one. But anyway, the unvaccinated kids far more healthy than the vaccinated. The vaccinated, rates of asthma and eczema, typical autoimmune kind of conditions, way higher. Diabetes, autism, you name it. Studies of there were reports from Amish communities, right? The Amish have a very low vaccination rate. I mean, there's virtually no autism in Amish communities. Okay.
Now, what about
the few that they have are like adopted kids?
Let me ask you this: we talk about vaccinations. What about food?
I was going to say like processed.
What about that? Because there is a fixation, obviously, in this country on processed food. Everything is quick. It's processed. There's chemicals. There's dyes. A lot of the foods that you can get in the U.S. are actually banned in other countries.
Yeah, that's a really good question. We've been talking about vaccines, obviously. There are many people that say that there are other things going on, too, to explain why kids are so sick nowadays, okay? And one of them is the food. I could list other things that people talk about, right? I mean, from EMFs to, kids staying too long on their iPhones all day, that kind of thing. But I think food is very important. And, glyphosate is in a lot of food. And glyphosate, I don't know if you know about glyphosate, but it's in Roundup, right? It's a weed killer. And it's a Monsanto product that's used with reckless abandon throughout the country and in industrial farming. They even use it not just to kill weeds, but to dry the wheat afterwards, right? It's got some kind of drying property. But it gets in the soil. It's hard to get out of the soil. It gets in people's bodies. It kills bees, right? Because what it's also doing is it's getting in your gut and screwing up with your microbiome. So that's a whole nother thing that probably has a vaccination link, right? We're only now kind of learning about the microbiome and how important it is, right? Because the gut is like the biggest immune organ of our body, right? Mm-hmm. And so the gut and the microbiome in the gut and the dysregulation that might be happening because of the food we're eating, the crap food that we eat, now add vaccination to the mix. That could have a definite effect. And then this kind of brings it around to epigenetic issues, right? Why does one kid get autism and another one doesn't, right? Why is that kid susceptible? Well, they're not processing the aluminum, perhaps. They're not processing the mercury. It's accumulating in their bodies. Why is that? Well, they've got maybe some mitochondrial disorder. That's a genetic thing. These things like vaccinations and food that we eat and maybe other things are acting on those genes in an epigenetic fashion to trigger these problems. So, that's a really good question.
So I have another question. So in regards to the anti-vax, what about people that have been vaccinated but have gone through like a transplant of some type and now they're on anti-rejection medication, so they are more susceptible to become sick and they cannot take anything because of the medication they're taking? What is the risk of being somebody that's around somebody that's not vaccinated?
Yeah, so there's going to be immunocompromised people for various reasons. They're on transplant medications to bring down their immune system, or they're just born with an immune deficiency. Okay, so the thing of it is, they're going to have to be careful no matter what. I mean, you got to remember, like, vaccine preventable illnesses are just one set of illnesses, communicable illnesses. There's plenty of stuff out there you can get sick and die from or get sick from. So someone who's immunocompromised has to worry about a lot of things, not just the vaccine diseases. So in an extreme case, like when they're really undergoing treatment and their immune system's really down, just like a kid with cancer is on getting chemotherapy in the hospital, nobody should come around them. Nobody that's sick with any sickness. And as a matter of fact, nobody should be around those people when they've just gotten a live virus vaccine, like the measles, because the measles vaccine can shed, and they can pick up the measles from that person.
No kidding. Okay.
Well, Tom, what do you think?
This was enlightening. I didn't know a lot of this stuff. I'm not super up on this stuff. My kids were vaccinated. Knock on wood, everything went well. I have not had any issues. I didn't have any issues from being vaccinated, but I do know that there is a big fight.
And I see people in the comments, and the people in the comments, they're pretty brutal. I mean, it's the line in the sand regarding vaccinations.
Oh, it's one way or the other.
It doesn't seem like there's much middle ground.
No,
I think for me it's beyond that. It's beyond the vaccination point. I think when we get to a portion in our lives, which we seem to be at now, where the government mandates, they push so many things on you that you have to do these, or else your kids can't go to school, or they can't go to the grocery store, or they can't deal with other kids. That is what bothers me the most. Because, like I said, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a doctor, and I don't know if certain vaccines are more susceptible to giving kids autism or not, because I haven't done that research. But I do know that the moment that people start pushing things on you, whether you think they're right or think they're wrong, it's because they're probably wrong. Anytime somebody forces you to do something you may or may not want to do,
it definitely makes you think.
There's probably a problem with that. You know what I mean? And when you watch these commercials, like, if you're 50 and you had a problem with mesothelioma or whatever the fuck it's called, and you took this certain pill, and now you have cancer, or now your bladder, you're shitting all over yourself, and you have all these fucking problems.
You can sue.
Yeah, excuse my French. You can sue, but the whole thing, I read that what he said about vaccinations and people not being able to sue because it's a vaccination and because it's not.
Yeah, that's such a crime. I think nothing's going to happen unless we can overturn that 1986 law. I think no matter where you stand on this issue, that is just.
But I think it'll never happen. It'll never, as long as Big Pharma keeps throwing money at the government and the government keeps not giving a damn about the people. They're worried about the money. The money is the big thing. And because Big Pharma can produce that money to cause these people to change these laws and force these other people, force us, I don't want to say bottom feeders, but the people here on the bottom barrel, they force us to do these things that may or may not be good for us because it's good for them. Because it's good for their pockets, it's good for their wallets, it's good for their homes, it's good for their boats and their cars and stuff like that. And here we are, we're just the basic people trying to figure out what's the best thing for our families.
And I know, they talk about the anti-vax thing. I was looking at stuff today, and there's actually a doctor who wrote a book that said vaccines did not cause Rachel's autism. So he wrote a book about his daughter.
Peter Hotez. Yeah, Peter Hotez.
He wrote a book about his daughter.
Yeah, he's a immunologist or vaccinologist down in Texas. He's one of the universities down there. There's an interview with him on Joe Rogan, and it's worth watching. I would encourage all of you to watch it. Some of the things he says in there, I would ask you all, watch it, and you tell me, well, you're going to have to wait and watch it, but how you think is he telling the truth or not? And I'll tell you one thing he says when Joe asks him, so like besides the antigen, Peter, what are in these vaccines? What are in these vaccines? And he looks really serious. He takes a breath. He says, it's saline. Of course, salt, which is salt water. Just saline. That's all. For someone to say that he knows what's in the vaccines. I mean, he's got to. If he doesn't, wow. He knows what's in the vaccines. And to say that just saline is in there with the antigens, what a crock of shit. Mm-hmm. It's just amazing to me. And so, people, I just stress again, really try to do some of your own research. Try to keep an open mind. Look, we were all brought up in this world from our schooling, like learning about Jenner and the cowpox vaccine and the fairy tales there. And we were all brought up like vaccines are always good all the time for everybody. Risk is 1 in a million. Don't worry about it.
Well, now you got me scared.
I guess for me, it's hard because growing up, everyone was vaccinated.
Yes.
You had to be. And I feel like I didn't see autism as much as I see it now. And I wonder,
absolutely.
Is it, I was vaccinated. So is it the food?
Yes, but
I feel like it's a good portion of the food that we're intaking into our bodies. I feel like it's a mixture of things. But I think either way, you're going to take a chance no matter what, whether you do or you don't.
Yeah.
So
okay, but the thing of it is, like, back in the day, okay, I don't know how old you are, but I'm going to guess you had a lot less vaccinations than the kids do now. And back when I was a kid, even less. And so they're just getting bombarded with vaccinations. And the amount of aluminum, for example, that, okay, a newborn baby gets 250 micrograms of aluminum, okay? The daily maximum for an adult is 50, okay? It's insanity. Now, that's just on day one. Now you add up 2 months later when the kid gets more vaccines, in 4 months, in 6 months, and then 12 months, right? They get something like 4.5 milligrams, or it might be more by the time, which is a shit ton of aluminum. That's just aluminum. We could talk about the other stuff. So how we were vaccinated 25, 30 years ago is different than now. Not that there weren't problems then, because yeah, there were, but it's off the rails now. It is off the rails. And that's a problem. And it's off the rails, and they're forcing us to do it. Back then, your parents, if they wanted to, could have gotten a personal belief exemption or a religious exemption or whatnot. And there still would have been still back then, there was a 90 plus, rate of vaccination. So the whole herd immunity thing, which we didn't really touch on yet, but was just fine. I mean, there were outbreaks, yes, but now it's just insane. It's getting worse.
Now, there's somebody in the comments that was claiming that and you would know more about this than I would, that a lot of the same ingredients in vaccines are used in general anesthesia.
General anesthesia. Well, general anesthesia usually uses like IV propofol. There's inhalational agents that are like fluorinated compounds and whatnot. So I'm not sure really what they're talking about.
But you don't really correlate the two as having similar ingredients as modern day vaccination and modern day anesthesia.
No.
That's just that's just a comment that was in there, and maybe that's some other.
Maybe they could put up another comment and be more specific. I'm not sure what they're talking about.
And when you're out there on the internet, and I'm sure you search this a lot more than I ever have, do you find a lot of misinformation out there on the internet regarding the vaccines?
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. The internet, like everything else, there's a lot out there, good and bad. So you got to sort through it.
And I think that's what bothers me the most. Beyond not the most, but a whole lot, because where's your information? Not your information specifically, but I keep going back to parents, because this is what it really breaks down to: the individual parents deciding for their particular children what's the best for their children, not the hive, not the rest of the children in the world, just the ones that they're responsible for. If you don't know what to believe, because the information is all over the place for both sides. We live in a day where you could put anything you want on the internet and millions of people could believe it, no matter how full of crap you might be. for the parents, it's a horrible thing because, like, who do you believe? I mean, this gentleman's a doctor, obviously, so he knows a few things, and you know, he's had some research and he's had some schooling and stuff like that. So I could see how it would be simple to believe what he has to say in comparison to what other people have to say. But you might also have a doctor who's on the opposite side of the spectrum and says the complete opposite.
So now you're completely confused as just
a parent.
General parent.
As a parent who just has to just worry about whether your kid is going to live or die every day. To me,
so
it's
you
just
take that 50-50 chance choosing to vaccinate or not.
Scary. It's super scary because it's not just to choose to vaccinate. It's the choice between life or death for somebody that you care the most about. You know what I mean? You give birth.
So here's the thing. I mean, like you were saying, I mean, you could certainly find someone and get someone on here that'll say that, you know, just take the opposite course of what I'm saying. But let me tell you something here. You know, the injuries that let's say a kid has an injury. Some of these vaccine injuries, they don't happen like right away. That's the tough part. Right? It's not like the kid gets a shot and instantly they have a seizure. Now, yes, that happens sometimes, sure. But often it's not right away. It's 2 days later they have a seizure. It's a week they start acting weird. It's maybe the second time they get the HPV shot or the MMR that they kind of act a little weird. And the third time they get, you know, they're really going downhill. So you know who knows that? You know who can tell? It's not the pediatrician. Because they just will count it up as, oh, bad luck, or just don't worry, it's a febrile seizure, or don't worry, you know, the kid will get through this. You know who knows? It's the mom. Okay.
Right. Yeah, but by then it's too late. By then it's too late.
My point is that nobody listens to the mom. You talk to establishment doctors, pediatricians. They will. I mean, the things they say about these mothers. Okay. That saw their kids get destroyed. Oh, you know, it's too bad. It's a shame, but it's just an anecdotal. That's just an anecdotal case. The kid, that would have happened to that poor kid anyway. That's the attitude, right? But it's not. You see this over and over and over again. Okay, it's not just anecdotal. It's a pattern. And like for the establishment to not question this, to not look into it, it's like, you know, if you see a murder here and a murder over there, you know, and it's kind of similar, I mean, the detectives are going to start to think, you know what, maybe we should think these are linked. Let's look into this. But the system doesn't. It just dismisses it. It dismisses these cases that are just, it's so typical. If you watch the movie Vaxxed, the movie you were going to maybe watch today, watch that movie. I would say for everybody here, watch that movie. You also learn about Andy Wakefield in that movie. But, you know, watch that movie and you'll get it. You'll get a sense, okay? And that just touches the surface. But it shouldn't be dismissed. You know, in Washington State, there were 1,000 women, mostly women, outside recently when this whole measles thing was blowing up because the state legislature was trying to cram in some legislation to force the MMR vaccine, take away the personal belief exemption for the MMR vaccine. So they wouldn't even allow anyone to testify inside, like experts that were vax skeptic or anti. They wouldn't even let Robert F. Kennedy Jr., I believe, in there to testify. And they had 1,000 women outside that they wouldn't listen to. And all they heard was the pro-vax side pushing the vaccine. So this is the kind of, you know, disconnects and just inability or unwillingness to kind of look at it objectively. And it's really kind of sad.
Now, I'm not educated on this whole vaccinated thing at all whatsoever. So me looking at this, I wonder, okay, but so yeah, there is a lot more cases that these kids are getting sick. But what about the other kids that are getting the same vaccinations and aren't getting sick? So is it genetically, or, you know, could it be genetically, and some are more prone to it than others? So yeah, you know, in that Peter Hotez thing, if you watch it on Joe Rogan, he says that autism, it's all genetic. There are like 90 genes that we've kind of
narrowed down, and he's basically saying that autism is a genetic disease. Okay, so now years ago, autism happened at about 1 in 10,000. Okay, the latest CDC numbers are 1 in 36. Okay, that's an astounding epidemic. Even if you think that 1 in 36 number is might be a little colored by changing the diagnosis criteria slightly or and whatnot. Even so, all right, let's say it's 1 in 100. Okay, from 1 in 10,000 to 1 in 100. I mean, this is an absolute epidemic. Guess what? There is no such thing as a genetic epidemic. Okay, it's no such thing. Now, genes can make you more susceptible. In other words, like, genes cock the hammer and the vaccine pulls the trigger kind of a thing, right? Mm-hmm. So I was talking earlier about the whole epigenetic thing. So that's what I was talking about. Like, yeah, some people, they have their cellular machinery for whatever reason just can't handle the toxic load and it accumulates in their bodies. Or their immune system, it just genetically doesn't have the system to kind of like compensate for these assaults on their body. Those are the ones that get the neurologic diagnosis, the brain injury. I mean, that's what we're talking about. These are brain injuries. Autism is a brain injury on a spectrum of others. There's like 1 in 6 kids.
And the reason why
kids have a neurological diagnosis in the United States.
All right. Well, I didn't give you a proper introduction at the top of this because we kind of brought you in the middle of our conversation. But we've been talking with Dr. Douglas Mackenzie. He's a plastic surgeon in private practice since 2000, 90% cosmetic, 10% reconstructive. He graduated from Johns Hopkins School of Medicine in 1989. He trained at Cedars-Sinai, New York Hospital, Oregon Health Sciences University, was on the academic faculty at OHSU from 1997 to 2000. He served 11 years in the Air National Guard from 2001 to 2012. He began researching vaccines about 6 years ago after witnessing Wakefield persecution, which he discussed earlier. He was very active in the spring of 2015 when California SB 277 was going through legislature. He's involved with referendum effort after SB 277 signed into law by Governor Jerry Brown. And he's also on the board of the Physicians for Informed Consent. What is SB 277 real quick?
It was the law in 2015 which removed the personal belief exemption in California. Okay. So in other words, every state except for West Virginia and Mississippi had a personal belief exemption, and that was taken away. So,
and one quick question.
We're one of 3 states.
One question I had, which I see a lot of debate about, because you brought in the statistics of autism from being 1 in 10,000 to 1 in 30. But people say, well, yeah, but that's because the way that autism is classified now is completely different. Back then, it was extremely autistic, and now it's judged more on a scale that it just encompasses a lot more people.
The spectrum is
so much broader than what it was when it was 1 in 10,000. What are your comments on that?
Well, I did kind of mention that there might be, in my opinion, there might be some truth to that in that the numbers in the classification has been adjusted over the years. But the 1 in 36 is a CDC number. That's the latest number from the CDC. I'm pretty sure I'm correct on that. It was 1 in 45, but I think it's now 1 in 36. So that's coming from the CDC. But I would agree that there's probably some element of the reclassification. However, there have been studies that have looked at that issue. There was one big one in California with the California Department of Health, I believe, several years ago, or a few years ago. And so that one and some other studies have kind of put to rest that notion that, it's just miscalculation. No, it's not. Even people that would not agree with me about what I've been talking about agree that autism is, in the whole autism spectrum, is much higher than it was years ago.
Okay, we're going to take one more question from Jeff, who's sitting in the studio, and let me make sure that mic's off, and then we're going to wrap it up here with Dr. Mackenzie. But, Jeff, what was your question?
What are your thoughts on countries that don't have access to vaccinations and all these kids that are dying there because they are not vaccinated? That is one of the major things that you see in third world countries, that they don't have access to these vaccinations, and they are the ones that are getting all these different diseases because they're not vaccinated.
And deaths, as far as measles, mumps, whatever.
Yeah. So I was talking earlier about how, like, you can't really compare the first world countries and the third world countries just about what we've been talking about. But yeah, you're right. I mean, there are a lot of deaths in those countries. Now, let's kind of go back 100 years or so in this country. Okay, when our rate of deaths and morbidity from those same diseases was like they are now in the third world countries. That was like when I talked about in the early part of the segment, where, you know, death rates for diphtheria and measles and pertussis, whooping cough, and other things were super high, and they came down 98% for measles, for example. Okay, 60 to 70% for whooping cough before the vaccine was introduced. Okay, similar for, I think it was 90-some% for diphtheria. Why did that happen? Well, we went from a third world country essentially to a first world country in the early last century, right? I mean, we had sanitation, public sewer systems, indoor plumbing, refrigerated food transportation, so we didn't have micronutrient deficiencies, right? That all kind of went away from the late 19th century to the middle of the 20th century. Well, the third world now is like we were then. I mean, they have all those same problems with sewage and sanitation and, you know, micronutrient deficiencies and whatnot. I mean, there's been studies where, you know, the World Health Organization, for example, what's the treatment for measles overseas? It's massive 2 doses of vitamin A. So vitamin A administration to someone with measles decreases the morbidity and mortality dramatically. But, you know, there are programs that are widespread, the World Health Organization and institutes for giving vaccines. So, you know, a lot of these countries are getting vaccinated, but sometimes that's a problem too. Like, you know, there's a whole thing with polio, where polio is really only endemic in a few countries now. But what has happened is, in some of the countries, this non-polio acute flaccid paralysis, which is basically polio, okay, is happening from the vaccines. Okay, they're giving so many vaccines, and these vaccines aren't the greatest, and you know there's issues.
I have to ask one more question, because this is another question coming from the comments. And they're saying that they were, according to the CDC, it's actually 1 in 59 and 4 times more likely in boys regarding the autism. Now, if it is just vaccine-based, why would it be 4 times more likely in boys? Wouldn't that almost lean to more of a, I don't even know how to, would it be more genetically based or something like that? But why, what's the justification for it being 4 times more likely in boys?
Yeah, it has to do, I think, with something with testosterone receptors in the brain. Honestly, I can't remember, but that is true. It's and I think estrogen's somewhat protective. Yeah, I don't remember the details truthfully, but it is more common in boys. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, well, I'll tell you what, Doctor, thank you so much for coming on and explaining all this to us from your perspective. Just a quick question. Have you been ridiculed by your peers for coming out with the information that you're giving regarding vaccinating?
Yeah, I've had some ridicule. Yeah, yeah, some trolling on my, social media, that kind of thing, when people find out. But, I just... I know that's going to happen.
Right.
So, but I just want to say, thank you for having me on here. I thank Brandon who got me on here. And I want to thank everyone who's watching this. And I'm not watching the comment scroll, which is probably a good thing. But you know what? I don't want to just be preaching to the choir. I mean, I'm in these groups, and, it's basically like talking to the choir when I'm talking to folks. So it's really good to be able to talk to people and have people listen that don't know anything about this.
Right.
And, you know, if I can just have, you know, 2 or 3 people that were scrolling, trolling or whatever, you know, take this book, you know, read J.B. Hanley's book or watch Vax or, you know, start to question this, start to read, start to dig a little bit. It's all good.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Thank you very much, Doctor. And, you know, best of luck. And we will talk to you. Thanks for coming on. And we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Dr. Mackenzie.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, that's like deep stuff, but it's like I've never talked to a guy like that, and he's talking, and I know it's deep medical stuff that we're talking about, but I don't know if we're going to ever have another chance to talk to a guy like that. I mean, there's plenty of anti-vaxxers out there, but not all of them are from Cedars-Sinai and Johns Hopkins University and with a medical actual background. So I think whether you believe it or not, we had at least the perspective of somebody that is somewhat educated in this particular field. It's not just some Yahoo that sees Bigfoot and is an anti-vaxxer.
Oh, he's a
You know
doctor.
what I mean?
He had to go through med school.
Yeah,
This makes
so
me glad I don't have kids.
yeah, so we I think the listeners are going to kill me right now because we did have one mom that's supposed to come on the show, and her name is Jocelyn, and she's more of an anti-vaxxer. What is it called? Activist.
Yes.
And we are going to talk to her real briefly. We promised her on the show, and we took a lot more time with the doctor than what I was initially planning on. But if we're going to talk about anti-vaxxing, then we need to talk about anti-vaxxing. We need to see what a professional has to say.
The people need to know.
Yeah, the people need to know. So, Jocelyn, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, are you still awake? Because I know you're in Michigan.
Not Michigan, but yeah, it's about 11:30
Wisconsin.
here.
So what did you think about what the doctor had to say regarding vaccine?
Well, I enjoyed his segment. I think he was spot on and was very articulate in his responses.
So what's your personal story regarding vaccinations? Because I know you used to be in California, and you moved out of state just to get away from California's vaccination laws. Is that correct?
Correct. Like most anti-vaxxers, we started off pro-vax. For me, I mean, I'm only 23 years old, so I was partially vaccinated, and I never questioned them. My mom just took me, and I just went. But it wasn't up until 2014 when I started to get more into politics, and And then just in my newsfeed, I would see a bunch of anti-vaccine stories, or like the 2014 Disneyland measles outbreak. That was what really made me question vaccines. So then I would just skim through the comments, and I would see a lot of people posting, "I'll question vaccines," or look up this website, or just posting articles. So I'm a very curious person by nature. So I would just click on them and see what they were talking about. And honestly, I was uninterested at first. I was like, no, they're just crazy people and everything. Then it wasn't until my sister was diagnosed with autism. She was a very healthy child, reached her milestones and everything, until she received the MMR vaccine. Everything just went downhill. She was diagnosed with speech delay.
Now, how old was your daughter at this time?
No, it's my sister.
Oh, your sister. Yeah. How old was she at that time?
Yeah, that's what made me question everything.
So your sister was completely normal, then she was vaccinated with the MMR, and then stuff started to slip. And how old was she when she was vaccinated with the MMR?
Oh, she's going to be 11 now, so that was really a long time ago.
Yeah, you get that when you're young.
When she was very, very young. I mean, at that time, I didn't pay attention to anything like that. Mm-hmm. But yeah, she's 10 now. So yeah, when she was diagnosed with autism, that's when I started to a little bit research more. At that time, I still didn't believe vaccines cause autism. Till this day, I don't think vaccines are the only thing that can potentially cause autism.
You believe that vaccines are the only thing that can cause autism?
No, I don't. I think a lot of things can potentially cause autism. I mean, I don't want to get super conspiracy theorists on everybody, but I mean, our food is being poisoned and stuff like that. So I do think that can kind of contribute to it. I'm not a medical professional. I'm just a mom that researched everything.
No, but that's okay. That's okay. I mean, Tom has a Google PhD too. But you believe that they're poisoning our food. First off, who's they?
Monsanto, obviously.
So why would Monsanto want to poison our food? And I'm just asking questions because I haven't delved into this. I don't have a Google PhD or anything like that. But why would Monsanto want to, like what's the end game? Why are they trying to poison us?
I mean, a lot of people can. I mean, the most common answer you'll probably find is depopulation, which, I mean, I guess that's more digging into the rabbit hole.
Like population control?
No, I'm all down for this rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So you believe that the government and Monsanto are trying to poison us for population control?
That's the most common answer you'll get if you, basically.
And I will tell you, their name pops up in a lot of bad shit.
Monsanto,
when there's a lot of shit going on when it comes to that company, they're in all kinds of stuff. Food. There was a guy who just sued Roundup, the company that makes Roundup. They found there was like some gardener or whatever that was exposed to it for years, and he got cancer, and they found in his favor.
You know, there's people in the comments where she's saying this, and like, you know, there's people that I respect in here saying I agree with her on the food that we're getting poisoned.
Monsanto, that name has come up a lot, even in like A-list celebrities have brought up that company.
Pick your favorite food that you buy from the grocery store. Okay, that comes with in a package.
Okay,
prepackaged. Okay,
all right.
Not your fresh foods that you buy. Well, even those
and
too.
even those, yeah,
even those too. And look at the ingredients, and how many of the ingredients do you have a difficult time pronouncing?
I don't know any of them.
Yes,
because if it's in a box, there's something to preserve it,
and we don't know,
and we have no idea what the hell it is.
Basis.
There was a thing that cereal had, like pesticides in it.
When you do your best to put something on the shelf to last for 10 years that shouldn't last for 10 days,
yep,
it's got to be something in it.
But back to my favorite packaged food, it would be the red zingers with the coconut flakes on them. Those would be
the ones
what
that
is
say
yours?
don't have
What's
a shelf
yours?
life.
Yeah,
that say
exactly.
like Twinkies never die.
So you said that Monsanto and the government trying to curb the population would be the number one found answer, but what are some of the other answers that you found out there of why our food is being poisoned?
Honestly, that's just the one that I'm really familiar with. I haven't dug that deep into that. But I mean, from what I see all the time, that's the most popular answer you'll get.
So do you have kids yourself?
I do. I'm a new mom. I have a 7-month-old son.
Okay, and has he been vaccinated at all?
Not at all.
Not at all. But he's only 7 months old. So you haven't dealt with the whole problem. Now, what problems do you foresee in your future when you try to enroll him into school in whatever state you're in? I believe you said Wisconsin.
Yes. Well, thank God that Wisconsin still values freedom and medical choice. And I wouldn't be facing no problems enrolling him.
Okay. All right. And do you have any fear of him getting something like the measles, the mumps, or any of that other stuff that's vaccinated against? Do you have any fear of that?
I don't. The measles, I mean, I understand there's severe, moderate, or not that moderate cases, but honestly, measles is just a vitamin A deficiency or malnutrition.
Okay. And are you... Because, Tom, don't you think that she's going to get some flack from some other parents and stuff if she brings a kid into school vaccinated?
It's one way or the other. It's one end of the spectrum or the other. The people that anti-vax are dead set against the people who vax, and the people who vax are dead set against the people who are
There's no
anti-vax.
middle ground.
There is when you look at the discussions that go on between the both sides, it is brutal. And I'm not saying I've always vaccinated my kids. But I'm not going to lie, when the doctor said the HPV the vaccine is terrible, my daughter just got the HPV vaccination, so that scares you a little bit. But again,
the information base to me is what scares me, because everybody's getting their information from fucking Google, and I live in a world where you can put anything you want literally online, and people can decide whether or not they believe you, whether you have absolutely no education at all, or you're a fucking doctor.
And when you go to the doctors,
knows.
when you go to a doctor and the doctor says, "Hey, your kid's behind on the shots. These are the shots they need, and those are the shots they recommend," and they tell you what they're for, there is a trust level that you have with the doctors that they're doing the right thing. Like I said, the flu virus is the only one that I'm like, nope, we don't do the flu shot.
They're just following protocol. They may or may not believe that these vaccines have anything or everything to do with shit like autism. They have a job to do, and they vaccinate all the rest of the kids.
But that's the problem. They're just repeating what they've been taught. Science is never settled. that's what I learned in science class, to always question everything. So that's what I'm doing.
No debate there.
Okay.
My kid's doctor is their uncle. Whatever shots he tells me they need, I'm going to give them to him.
Because you trust him.
Yes.
But where did his information come from?
He did go to school for all that, so that's something that we're going to trust.
See, but that's the thing. That basically you're just repeating what someone else has taught you, whether it's correct or incorrect. They still teach fucking Christopher Columbus in school, and we all know that's full of shit.
Well, you know,
what I mean?
like Jose in the comments, he says, "Hey, Michael Jackson, Magic Johnson is still alive with HIV, so HPV can't be that bad."
That's a meme right there.
Yeah, it is.
That's a God level meme right there, and I need to put that.
Come on, now, Magic Johnson is rich. Let's not get it twisted.
Yeah,
what do you? A long time ago.
Okay, what do you have to say about like in these communities in Oregon where parents are very anti-vaxxing and there's these measles breakouts and stuff like that that's going on? Do you just look at it and say, hey, well, it's not really that bad. Kids can survive the measles, and I'm not going to vaccinate my kids. Is that your pretty much your train of thought?
No, I mean, obviously, I do care about it, but at the end of the day, I mean, I can only do what's best for my child. And see, at the end of the day, every parent, whether you're pro-vax, anti-vax, ex-vax, or whatever you want to call yourself, you just want to do what's best for your child.
That part.
And what does your family think about you not vaccinating your 7-month-old?
Everybody agrees with me.
They do.
They've seen my son. He's reaching his milestones. Here's the thing. I've actually expressed my fear, my concerns with his pediatrician, and I'm glad he's very pro-choice. He respects my decision, and he's on board with it.
Okay. Well, I mean, okay. I mean, it is what it is. She's choosing not to do it, and she's doing fine. I mean, I did see in the news, Tom, that there was some anti-vaxxer activist that was just got diagnosed with he has chickenpox.
And he's like a heavy anti-vaxxer, and he's a politician.
And he's older with chickenpox, which can be a little bit more serious.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it's shingles then, right?
Yeah. Yes. Well, okay. Is there any other, because you basically, those are pretty big words to come on and say that you believe Monsanto and the government are poisoning us for population control. Is there any other conspiracies that you, what, Brandon? Go ahead.
I was just going to say that there are several countries that have banned any seed that has been GMO'd by Monsanto. It's something that is a widely held belief worldwide that Monsanto is poisoning humanity.
Why would Monsanto do that?
I mean, part of it is there's a couple theories behind it that I've heard. First is kind of tied to the Georgia Guidestones, where there's this idea that we're going to reduce population down to 10 million people, I think. But the other one is that that eventually humanity will get stronger from it. Sure, billions of people may die, but we will evolve stronger in the long run. You want to
know what I think it is?
Oh my God! Yeah,
this is what I think it is. I think it's Monsanto got into it with the prospect of making some cash, and then maybe some people decided that some of the shit that they put into the stuff that we consume is not so good for us. But like the good doctor was saying, that they're so embedded into it, they're making so much money off of this shit now, where all they can do is just hide the rest of the stuff that really is actually happening to people. They don't give a fuck. As long as the dollars still keep rolling in, they don't care what happens to the general population, because they're not eating the shit.
Exactly.
If you go to a grocery store and you eat and you get one healthy meal for one person, say it costs you $25, one meal, one person. Now you can go to McDonald's and have, 1,000 chicken nuggets for the same prices, because of the fact that it's not healthy food. They don't give a shit. They don't care. The people who are in the know are eating healthy. They're growing their own foods. They're not eating all the shit that's fucking, from the grocery stores and all the stuff that has all the chemicals and all the foul shit they're doing to it. They don't care. They don't care because there's so many billions of people in this world. For example, if you're the top dog of Monsanto and you're not eating anything in the, you're not eating any of the food that, or any of the items
that's
that they serve in the
product.
food, you're doing just fine, right? You're doing great because you're making the money and you're not going to die, even though your stuff is full of shit.
But here's the thing:
it's a win-win for them.
We all run on money, and if Monsanto's trying to cut the world population down to 10 million based on the Georgia Guidestones, then who the fuck is their fucking consumer to even make money anymore? It doesn't make sense.
It does
it's
make
like so
sense.
far-fetched.
But even the rate that even the rate with food now, the way they grow, like with animals, like the rate that like chickens grow, because of what they inject the chickens with to get them to grow at a
All the
faster rate
hormones.
to keep up with the production or the supply and demand of what the people are eating. Now they're even talking about making genetically altered, genetically created animals because we're eating
now it's
more
legal.
food.
They're already selling it in the United States.
All right, one question from Shanna. What's up?
So to fall back on what Brandon was saying, some people are even saying that like autism is so prevalent or just the spectrum is so prevalent because it is the next evolution of the human psyche. And so that
autism.
Yeah, like the spectrum and how people are like, because people on the spectrum are so smart and they're so like OCD about things and they're so good with numbers.
Amy Schumer just came out about her husband being on the autism spectrum, and that she realized it for a while, and she said that was one of the things that. Whoop.
Oh, did I unplug you? Go ahead. Keep talking.
I couldn't hear myself. Can't hear myself talking. That was one of the things. His personality was what caused her to fall in love with him, and the quirkiness. But she said he's super, super smart.
Yeah, and
but he is on the spectrum.
Yeah. They're saying that it's so prevalent nowadays because it is the next evolution of the human psyche, and that.
So everybody's going to be Rain Man.
Everybody in this room is smoking weed except me. That's all I have to say.
Well, I used to work at a home for mentally disabled kids, and I would say about 50% of them were autistic. And one of the craziest thing that everyone thinks is that they aren't smart, but they are the smartest kids that you will ever see, and they will get away with murder if you let them. They're the most smartest kids that you would ever see. You let them, you teach them something, and they will keep doing it. And it's one of the biggest things that I've always noticed about people talking about kids with autism. They think like, oh, poor man. They're not as what's the name? What people make them out to be.
Okay,
they're not stupid at all. Right. They're just not. I was trying not to use that word. Right.
Okay,
they're just the way that they
think differently.
Right.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Jocelyn, for coming on. We've got to wrap this up. We've talked about anti-vaxxing and vaccines a lot this show. I think it's been like for an hour and 47 minutes. So we have to get out of this. We need to wrap it up. But thank you so much, Jocelyn, for coming on and sharing your stories regarding anti-vaxxer activism, I guess. Okay. So anyways, Jack, we got to have some fun now. We've been doing this nonsense for
almost 2 hours.
Yeah, 2 hours about freaking, I don't know, aluminum and shit. I think
it's been very informative.
You think so?
Yes.
Do people tune into the show to get fucking informed?
Dude, I
don't think so. Our advertising campaign is going out in bags of marijuana for our delivery service. That's where we advertise right now. Nobody cares about the anti-vax.
I don't know who Michelle Johnson is in the comments, but a lot of people think she's a Russian spy.
I believe she is too.
I think she is.
Michelle Johnson. Yeah, it sounds like a bullshit name I've ever seen one in my life. Okay, but I'll tell you what, we have a game going on, and guess what that game is, Tom? Tom, I'll give you one guess what game we're getting ready to play.
Guess who belongs to this cooter?
Well, very close. Guess that camel toe. Now, this is something, hopefully all the kids are in bed, everybody's tucked in, gone, night-night, and all the vaxxers are,
I love how we go from anti-vaxxers to guess that camel toe.
We got to have some fun. So who has the rules on this game and how we're going to play? Because we need to get this game going so we can wrap up this show and all this other kind of stuff.
You see the O and toe?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
All right, who's the game master on this? Who knows what we're playing? How are we playing? Who's got it? Nathan? Nathan, you got the mic?
Yeah.
All right, so what are the rules for this game that we're going to play? Guess that camel toe.
It's pretty easy. You get to look at a camel toe. You have 3 choices to choose from.
Oh, multiple choice.
And if you need hints, we have hints available.
Okay. All right. This sounds easy enough. All right. Okay. So let's just get playing. I want to.
Yeah.
This is the most pervy game that I think you guys have ever came up with.
It's Nathan's game, so of course.
I can't believe we're going from the most serious conversation that we've ever had to looking straight into camel toes. Tom, do you feel a little perverted playing this game?
Britney Spears.
We need a big camel toe.
Wow, Missy went right in.
I need.
I feel like she would.
Hold on.
Full screen camel toe.
All right. So obviously, there's a picture on our screen right now that we're looking at, and I see a woman in gray tights, and there is obvious. Tom, would you consider that a camel toe?
That's a little one.
That's a little
camel
one?
toe.
That's definitely
baby camel toe.
That's like a baby camel toe.
A newborn camel toe.
Yep.
Okay. So actually,
I
people
can
in the
totally
comments.
see labia.
All right.
I'm going to go
This
with.
is pathetic. This is very bad. All right, so
I'm gonna go Ariana Grande.
I'm going to go Miley Cyrus.
now I'm looking at those thighs, and I think those thighs are from somebody that's older than Miley and Ariana Grande. I think those are Britney Spears' thighs. Those are childbirth.
Dude, her
hips, Tom.
camel is much bigger than that.
Who, Britney's? So the
got a
options
bigger
that we
camel
have,
toe?
this picture that we're looking at, and the options are number 1, Miley Cyrus, number 2, Britney Spears, and number 3, Ariana Grande. It looks like a lot of people in the comments are voting for number 2. And I'm going to actually say Britney Spears. Steph, what is your guess on this camel toe?
I'm going to say Miley Cyrus.
Miley Cyrus, Miss, what is your guess?
My gut says Britney, but I'm going to go Miley.
You're going to go Miley.
I'm
Tom?
going rogue, Ariana Grande.
I'm going Britney Spears.
It's Britney, bitch.
I was right
I
from
told
the
you.
beginning. Should have went with Britney.
I'm wrong.
So I got 1 point. Who else got 1 point?
She's got a baby camel
Can I
toe.
just say, without looking at a picture, I picked Britney? Just
Okay.
saying.
All right. Next one, Jack. Come on.
Whoa.
That is a camel toe.
Now that is definitely a camel toe.
I'm going Christina.
Now that's a camel toe.
I'm gonna say Selena Gomez.
No, that's some lame.
Tom, how would you describe that camel toe for the audio listeners?
I don't know. That's
It looked
deep.
like her vagina got stung by a bee.
It looks like her. It looks like her
It's more
vagina
like a moose
ate.
knuckle.
Yeah.
It looks like testicles over the seam of her
This
pants.
vagina looks like it was punched by Mike Tyson in its prime.
The problem is, it's not a very even camel toe.
No.
That's chubby Christina right
like
there.
one lip is bigger than the other.
Yeah, it's definitely got a fat lip on that right side. So the options on this one are Selena Gomez,
That's Christina Aguilera.
Gwen Stefani, or Christina Aguilera. Who said Christina Aguilera?
I did.
Well, what makes you think Christina Aguilera?
Because I think I've seen this picture before.
That's First Tuesday Spank Bank.
I don't even want to know where they found these pictures. So, Steph, if you had to pick one right there, Selena Gomez, Gwen Stefani, or Christina Aguilera, that's definitely not Gwen Stefani. It looks too thick. I mean, I'm not talking about the camel toe.
I was up close to her this weekend, and I didn't see no camel toe, and
Not
she
a
was like
recognizable
right there.
camel toe?
No, I'm going to go number 3.
See, I say
Which is Christina Aguilera. You think
it's hard to say. You know, skinny girls are usually the only ones that have camel
Well,
toes.
who's the fattest chick amongst Selena Gomez, Gwen Stefani, and Christina Aguilera? Christina?
That's chubby Christina right there.
Well, yeah.
Oh, okay. So like new school.
I mean, none
Christina.
of them are fat, but yeah, that's oof.
Not classic.
I'm going to go 3, Christina.
I think I'm gonna go 3-2 Christina on this one. I think that's thick Christina.
I'm gonna go one just to go.
Anybody want a hint?
I'm gonna go one.
Yeah, let's give us a hint. Let's see if you can give us a hint and see if it helps us out. What is the hint?
I just heard them say it, so you guys don't even give a hint.
Yeah, don't give a hint.
Don't
Just
give
What's the hint? I didn't hear the hint.
The
What's
hint was it's Christina Aguilera.
That's a shitty hint.
Well, who is it, Jack? Who is it, Jack? It is Christina Aguilera. It is chubby Christina. Look at that.
I told you I've seen that picture.
All right.
How many times have you seen that picture?
I don't know. Look on his phone. Whoa. What is going on here?
Wow. Okay. Oh.
That looks like aged camel toe.
You're thinking that's an old camel toe?
Either that or Coco.
It's either Coco or Rhiannon.
I'm going to say Rihanna.
Who's Coco? Ice-T's Coco?
Yes.
Ice-T. I'm going Coco.
I'm going
on this
Coco
one.
on this one.
I'm going Coco.
I follow Coco.
Actually,
she always has camel toe. Like legit.
Can we buy a vowel? Can we get a clue?
I follow Coco on Instagram. And she always has camel toe, so I'm going with Coco.
Well, I'm looking down there at the right corner of the picture, and is that skin showing through down there? Is that actual skin color?
Yeah, it is.
I think so.
So that doesn't look like it's Rihanna dark.
No.
And it doesn't look like it's Madonna white. So I'm thinking it's going with tan cocoa.
Do we got to?
But what's on
She
here?
has
Coco's white, too.
large breastises.
Coco.
That's Coco. That's Coco.
I'm telling you, she
Coco.
always got camel toe.
And I'm 3 for 3. I'm 3 for 3. Who else voted Coco on this
Me.
one? Okay, all right. Next one, Jack. Let's do this. Hurry up. Wow. Okay. That's an old photo.
Wow.
And our options are Christina Applegate, Reese Witherspoon, or Denise Richards.
Denise
It's like a baby
Richards.
toe.
I don't think
like,
that's Denise Richards' color.
I'm going Christina Applegate.
I'm going Denise Richards.
Well, you see that little tattoo underneath the thing on the right side? Does anybody know what tattoos? I don't think Reese Witherspoon has a
what
tattoo.
tattoo are you talking about?
There's not a tattoo there on
No,
the right?
that's the string.
It's like a shadow.
That's a
or
shadow.
string.
That's a shadow from the string on her bikini.
I'm going with Christina Applegate in her prime.
Yeah.
I think so.
I think so.
I'm going to go number 3.
I'm going with 3 because that bikini bottom is like
old school
bikini bottom.
Yeah, high-waisted.
And Denise Richards would fall in that suit of bikini bottom.
She enjoys tiger blood.
Oh, I have no fucking idea.
Oh, shit. Denise
She dated.
Richards.
She dated. What's his face?
Oh, that's Denise Richards.
That's Denise Richards.
Ah, well, I was right either way.
That's Denise. I switched my vote to 3.
No, you can't change.
Yes, I can.
After that, well, yeah, I guess he can.
Surprisingly, in the comments, everybody was pulling for number 3, which is Denise Richards,
I
and
think it's
it
number
is
3
Denise
too.
Richards
Yep, because she was with Charlie Sheen.
Yes.
with Charlie Sheen. Yep, tiger blood.
Oh, you are?
All right. Oh, that is a horrible camel toe.
Oh,
That's
that
definitely
is
not
so
Cindy
bad.
Crawford.
That's-
Who's Robin Wright?
she was married to Sean Penn.
Oh,
I
that
don't
looks
remember
horrible.
her.
She was Jenny in Forrest Gump.
Okay. And Helen Hunt.
Give us some hints, Anderson.
That looks like it's from Helen Cunt, not Helen Hunt.
Oh man,
That looks like an old cooter.
that looks like
That looks like something Helen Hunt would wear.
I would say Helen Hunt.
that's like a stage 5 clinger.
All I know is that
Tattoo.
whoever is behind those pants needs to keep those pants on.
She chased tornadoes.
Helen Hunt.
Helen Hunt. All right, I think we got to
That's
stop with the
definitely
hints. It
Helen
makes it
Hunt
too easy.
That's her camel toe.
Yeah. Wow.
I don't know.
Dude, that's not a
How do you
camel
look
toe.
in the mirror when you're walking outside and see that going on down below and not do something? Yeah, we all did.
We all did.
Okay.
Wow, that one's like
Oh, yeah.
Who's Amy?
Amy Adams.
Who is that?
Amy
Adams.
Adams.
That's Jack's horrible spelling.
Oh, that's a typo?
Yeah.
He was too busy looking at the camel toe to actually spell stuff correctly.
I'm going to go Julianne Moore.
I agree.
Julianne Moore?
That's where I'm going.
Yeah.
I'm gonna guess Amy Adams.
Amy, I don't even know who. It's Julianne Moore.
Julianne Moore.
Wow.
That looked like
good
a,
at this
that looked
game.
like a redhead camel toe.
Missy knows her camel toes.
Dude, you gingers, man. That thing's like pinched tight. What is going on with your people? Jake?
Are you talking to me? I don't know. I
Yeah,
have a
that's
camel toe.
I know, but
No,
you're,
but
she's
when
a
I
ginger.
looked at that bottom half photo, it just looks. Out of those names, I pictured her body to that.
Jack, did you actually already have these on your computer or what? Okay, this is the options here are Molly Ringwald, Kim Kardashian, or Nev Campbell.
Oh, that's too small a
Nev
body
Campbell.
to be.
That's not
Kim K.
Kardashian.
That's
It's not
Nev
Kim K.
camel toe.
Well,
That's either-
that could be Kim K pre.
No.
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 I'm going to go number 3.
I'm going to go Nev Campbell.
Whoever it is looks like they're pretty much in shape. Is there a hint for this one? 'Cause I'd say Nev Campbell.
I'm going to go 3.
There
hint's
is,
gonna give
but
it
I
away.
thought we gave up on him.
I'm gonna. Yeah, we did give up on hints.
No, just no hints. Number 3.
Fuck them hints. I'm gonna say 2. I'm gonna
Kim
still say
Kardashian?
Kim K.
No.
Kim K?
Pre Kim K. Old school
No.
Kim
He
K.
thinks he's.
She still had booty and thighs.
No, she didn't. That was
Not
definitely
even close.
Yeah, that was definitely.
That was post Ray J.
Everybody's yelling in
You
here.
guys,
Everybody wants to get
she
on
had
this
more
camel toe.
hips and booty than Molly or Neve put together.
Not before
even
sex.
before.
Not before sex tape.
I think in the comments they're pretty much unanimously voting for Molly Ringwald, number 1. But I'm going number 3, Nev Campbell.
I'm going
Jack,
3
I'm going
too.
3.
can you unveil the camel seductress?
Kim K. Baby.
Oh, shit.
Oh shit!
Kim K. Baby.
That must be old.
That's pre. Oh, that's pre Ray
This
J.
before Ray J was banging that shit out.
Oh, that's what happened. I
That was
bet it looks
before Ray
completely
J.
different
That's
now.
actually pre everything.
No, that was probably.
Okay.
Oh.
Those are Beyonce
That's a
hips.
man.
No, that's Mariah Carey.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Mariah Carey.
Mariah Carey.
But it's Little Kim colors. It's Little Kim colors. Okay, so the options that we have on this one are Little Kim, Beyonce, or Mariah Carey.
I'm going to go Little Kim.
Why?
I don't think
now,
Mariah
Tom,
would wear that color.
Tom, why
though.
do you think that camel toe specifically belongs to
But
Little
I don't
Kim?
think so.
I don't know. That just looks like.
I'm going to go with
that
Little
looks
Kim.
like Little Kim.
Oh, yeah! It's Little Kim.
It's Little Kim. It has to be. I don't see Beyonce or Mariah wearing that color bottom.
Which is a bright purple.
Right.
Steph?
I still say Mariah Carey.
Mariah Carey. Jack, the answer is? Little Kim. Dude, she's starting to look a little bit like Michael Jackson.
She's
You
like,
see that?
she's
like
scared.
Janet.
That's actually a
She
good
actually looks
picture.
like Latoya.
That's a good picture of her. She's scary
you
as
should see her
shit.
now.
Yeah, that's a good picture.
She messed up?
She looks like Latoya Jackson.
Does she? Oh, boy.
But way worse.
Is anyone keeping track on who's winning?
I don't know.
She looks like Latoya Jackson now if Latoya Jackson's face melted off.
Ooh. Like Raiders of the Lost Ark style
Yes.
at the end?
Yes.
What's going
I'm
on
very
here?
confused.
There's a creeper in
Well,
the back.
yeah, that really throws me
What the
off.
fuck is that shit?
That does not look like a camel toe. That looks like a waterfall
Jack,
of
why
caramel.
are you on the camel toe
It
screen?
looks like Davy Jones's like tentacles.
Yes, it does. Like, what is going on behind those pants? Now, the options on this one are Lindsay Lohan, Liv Tyler, or Kristen Stewart.
This is a shitty camel toe picture.
Yeah.
It is. That's not really a camel
It looks
toe.
like Davy
No,
Jones's tentacles.
no,
I
that's
can't make
a
this
roast beef
photo out.
sandwich.
This was a bad photo.
That's an Arby's sandwich.
That's an Arby's sandwich.
I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna go Lindsay Lohan.
All I see is the guy in the background.
Lindsay Lohan.
I'm gonna say Lindsay Lohan too.
It's a
What's the
really,
hint?
it's a really tough sell.
I'm going to go Lindsay Lohan too because I just feel like out of Lindsay Lohan, Liv Tyler, and Kristen Stewart, Lindsay Lohan would have the meat that's been beat.
The creeper. No, the guy standing behind her.
That's probably your date.
I'm going to go with Lindsay Lohan.
That part.
So we're all three on Lindsay Lohan stuff.
Lindsay Lohan, full hair, 4.
All 4 of us are saying Lindsay Lohan. Jack, the answer is Lindsay Lohan. Man, she needs some work done. We need to get Dr. Sam to hook her up, man, because she needs like a facelift.
She looks weird as fuck.
A labia lift.
Dude, she needs like a vaginal
Have
circumcision.
you seen
or
her
something.
on there? What's that?
That new
Lindsay
show?
Lohan's Beach Club.
I just saw a little.
She
a
looks
little piece of that.
terrible.
Her vagina looks like it has a smoker's cough.
Damn.
The thing was that I've been kicked out of plenty of clubs, so I might as well create my own.
Yeah, all right. Oh, wow. Well, look at that. Is that her hand? Is that no? That's a guy's hand.
I'm gonna go Jennifer Love Hewitt.
I'm going to say Megan Fox.
Megan.
Oh.
So the options on this one are Sarah Michelle Gellar, Jennifer Love Hewitt, or Megan Fox.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Megan Fox. She straight rocks the camel toe a lot.
She does, Megan Fox.
Yeah, a lot of camel toe.
I say Sarah Michelle.
No, that's like somebody else's hand.
That's a man's hand.
That's a
Yeah,
man's
it's like
hand.
an older hand.
So I'm going to go Jennifer Love Hewitt.
It looks like she has thigh gap there. And I don't think Megan Fox or Jennifer Love Hewitt have thigh gap. I'm going to go with Sarah Michelle Gellar because she's like she's the skinny bitch. Go ahead, Jack.
Megan Fox.
Megan Fox.
Fox.
What year is this
totally.
Megan Fox though?
That's like pre-Transformer
Yes.
Megan Fox.
That's before kids.
Because she's starting to morph into Lindsay Lohan. Have you seen her recently? It just looks like she's just like
as good as she would.
no. She's
I
starting
still
to hit the
haven't
wall.
seen her thumb.
Oh, she has a weird thumb.
Yeah,
What's the matter with her
it's-
thumb?
One of her thumbs apparently
It
is
looks like
a
a
little
toe.
bit odd.
It looks like a
She got
toe.
toe thumb.
Oh.
Never seen it. She's obviously has camel toe.
So she gets a
and-
mani pedi on her one hand altogether.
and her camel toe apparently.
All right. Well, I mean, yeah. Okay.
Oh.
Let's see. Okay, now the options are Keira Knightley,
I don't know who the other
Nicole
one is.
Kidman.
Nicole Kidman, maybe.
I don't know who number 3 is.
Katriana Balfe.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
I don't know who that last
Who's
one is.
Katriana
I'm
Balfe?
saying Nicole Kidman.
I'm gonna say Keira Knightley.
I'm gonna say Keira Knightley. I don't know who the third one is.
I'll go Keira Knightley.
The chick from Outlander, Keira Knightley.
Nope, don't know
Nicole
who she is.
Kidman.
Still don't know who she is.
That's just something weird going on there. I think that's like I don't. Yeah, it's like Mount Rushmore.
Her pants are like squeezing the cooter.
Oh, man.
It's buried in there, though.
I have no idea. I'll go with Keira Knightley. Nicole Kidman.
Oh, shit.
Is she still married to
yes.
Keith Urban?
Keith Urban. All right. How many more of these we got, Jack? We got more?
Which one of you guys picked Nicole Kidman?
Well, I'll tell you
I
what.
had changed to Nicole Kidman afterwards.
Well, okay, so we have Olivia Wilde, Sandra Bullock, or Kate Upton. Now, this is probably one of the smallest camel toes that we've seen
I'm going to go
this game.
Kate Upton because
Who's Kate Upton again?
she's in
Victoria's Secret model.
Yeah.
The Wives Club, Second Wives Club.
Second Wives Club?
I don't watch that.
You'd know who she was if you saw her.
I'm going to say Sandra Bullock.
I'm going to go Kate Upton.
I'm going to say Olivia Wilde.
I'm going to go with...
I'm going with Olivia Wilde.
Yeah, I'm going with Olivia Wilde. She's the girl, the doctor girl from that one show, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Olivia Wilde.
Mm-hmm.
Could be Sandra Bullock, though.
Could be.
Those
I'm
look like
still-
Sandra Bullock hips.
And Sandra Bullock lips.
Those are
I'm changing mine to Sandra Bullock.
Yeah.
Tom?
Let's go number 2.
Shit.
Because I feel like Olivia Wilde's a little like...
I have a tendency to agree. I think it's probably Sandra Bullock, but I'm going to stick with my original with Kate Upton.
Okay.
Steph?
2, 2, and
Olivia Wilde.
1.
Olivia Wilde. Olivia Wilde. Steph gets it.
Y'all were right.
That's right.
I should have stayed.
I know that pussy, son.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
There's really nothing there.
Now, the options here are Pamela Anderson, Alexandra. Hold on. The options here are Olivia Munn, Alexandra Daddario, and Pamela Anderson.
I'm going to go Pamela
I'm
Anderson.
going to go Pamela Anderson because I don't know any of the other two.
That might be Pam Anderson back when she was in the heyday when she was super skinny.
Old school.
When she was on Tool Time.
That's Pam Anderson.
Yeah, Tool Time.
Yeah, I'm going to go Pamela Anderson.
Definitely not Olivia Munn.
We're all going Pamela Anderson?
Yeah.
All right. Pam Anderson. Mm-hmm.
It didn't turn green, just so you know.
Yeah. Whatever. We got it right.
I know. Just want to give him a hard time about his lower third.
Yeah. Well, okay. What's the next one, Jack? Last one. Ooh. Ooh.
I'm going to go Rebecca Romaine.
I don't even know who.
Going right in.
Rebecca Romaine Stamos, huh?
Yes, and she was in
Formerly.
X-Men.
Aaron Richards, Morena Baccarin. I
I'm
don't even
going to go
know.
3, 2.
What is that second name?
Oh, that's my baby mama right
Who?
there.
Which one?
She was on the new V.
Gotham. She's in Gotham.
Well, I don't watch any of that
Tell
shit.
me
Yes.
movies that aren't
Made up.
freaking like superhero.
I know.
I can't think of his name. Captain Gordon's lady.
Anything not superhero related.
Gotham.
Okay. Everybody's yelling. Nobody's on a microphone because.
Well,
this
yeah,
is
he watches the OC, so there you go.
Number 3.
I'm going Rebecca Romaine.
I'm going Rebecca
to say
Romaine.
Aaron Richards.
And it is Rebecca Romaine. And that's the last one, Jack? And so that was the name that camel toe. And Jeff, what are the scores? I did. And Jeff is tallying up the scores to see who is the professor of pussy. The
Professor.
Do we get like a
pussy?
The Googler of gash.
Do we get a sticker?
Who's the cooter computer?
Yeah.
Do we get a camel sticker?
The cooter computer.
Yeah, Steph, where's our camel toe patch?
The captain of camel.
You should have given out a pack of
I'm running out of names, Tom. The captain of camel. What else do we have?
A 3-way tie?
Oh.
We didn't have any tiebreakers?
We got.
There's no way in the world they got a 3-way tie.
We got a 3-way tie. No, there is no more. That's it.
I don't believe that shit.
Well, I'll tell you what, Tom. Are we doing anything else in this show? I mean, we didn't get much. We just talked about anti-vaccine for a long
Any
time.
good news topics?
Well, there is, but what time is it right now? It's 10:03. Oh, Lord,
We
man.
might be able to do a couple.
A couple of news stories.
Do one.
Mama June arrested for
Mama
crack.
June arrested for crack.
Arrested for crack.
Hold on,
crack.
Now, Jack and Nathan, in that news story for Mama June, there's actually the conversation after she got out of jail and she calls the tow truck driver. Can you guys bring that up? Or actually, I can bring it up here. I can do it here. Here, you guys just Tom, you start reading the story, and I will pull up this audio of Mama June.
Crack, or she was
she got busted at a gas station in Atlanta.
Her and her boyfriend.
Her and the boyfriend. Mm-hmm. She had crack cocaine and a pipe on her.
She had a pipe,
and he had some other stuff.
She's trying to lose a couple more pounds.
Well, that explains the weight loss.
Jenny Crack.
I just want to point out that, in California, we have the benefit of having people like Goodfellas and Red Rum and all their great strains of marijuana and cannabis, so that we don't have to have crackheads as much anymore.
Because crack is whack.
So what happened was the cops roll up on Mama June and her boyfriend because they're in the parking lot of a gas station, and they got into a domestic disturbance.
Yeah, he's cute.
Cops show up and start frisking him down. He says, hey, don't put your hand in my pocket. I don't want you to get stuck. So he had a needle on him. So then they start, checking out the car, and Mama June has a needle on the floorboard. She's got a pipe in her pocket. And anyways, both of them got picked up and arrested. So anyways, Mama June got out. The boyfriend stays in jail, but Mama June needs to pick up her car afterwards. And this is what ensued.
But you understand what I mean? I'm not going on you, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I ain't giving you no shit. I promise you that's me. I cuss. You know what I'm saying? I'm loud. I ain't cussing you out. I ain't goddamn hollering at you. I ain't arguing with you. I promise you that's just me. Ask anybody. I'm loud and fucking cussy.
I understand.
Now, Tom, to you, does she sound a little cracked out right there at that moment in time?
Sounds like she went out of jail and went straight back on the crack.
Now,
I didn't understand a word she said.
Well, yeah. Let's listen a little bit more.
But all I'm saying, I just need you to help.
I just need you?
That's that South shit.
Is that South shit?
That's like deep South.
Oh, yeah.
So I would like, you say you got insurance in the car, right?
Yes. I can pull that up.
Only thing you gotta have is a set of driver license, man, and I give that car back to you. I mean,
is this Waka Flocka or some shit? Was there a tow truck driver? What's going on here?
That's Mississippi.
No problem. I don't want your car. I pull cars every day, but I just can't give you back the car without no driver license. Now, you say your boyfriend, he's in jail, right? Mm-hmm. And he does not have no license.
Well, no, he don't have his license on him. He lost him yesterday somewhere. We don't know fucking where. I came back here thinking my credit card's missing, everything.
Somebody stole the stuff?
No. I just think goddamn because he was drunk, goddamn.
What did she just say right there?
He was drunk, goddamn.
Oh, goddamn. That was goddamn.
I can't even concentrate because all I see is his picture and he looks like Voldemort.
Oh, I hear all that.
He got misplaced. It's somewhere. And we're finding.
What happened to y'all, man? I mean, how y'all get caught into a skiing?
We was goddamn coming. We goddamn.
We got what?
Goddamn.
Be straight up with me now.
No, I'm being straight up. Like, he goddamn. It's a DUI, dude.
He got DUI?
No, I wouldn't.
Oh, he got a DUI?
Yeah.
They pulled y'all over?
Yeah, we were sitting in the damn parking lot, and goddamn, a white damn cop car came behind us with the ski, and goddamn, they came and got us. And goddamn, they detained me because goddamn, I didn't have no damn license. They couldn't prove it.
That's a lot of goddams in that conversation.
That's a down south thing.
Is that what they do?
But you know what?
It's heavy.
I used to watch her little show with her daughter, Honey Boo Boo, and I don't remember her talking like that.
Like I was. I didn't do that. And as soon
You didn't tell her who you were.
I did. But like I said, because my car, goddamn, and whatever, and they, goddamn, they had to pull him. You know how that shit goes? They detain every motherfucker in the goddamn car.
So y'all want to fight?
No.
You know what? What the hell was it? The car looked like it was trash. The car had everything scattered out. I had to put your coat down and sit down.
Because the point of the matter is, they goddamn, I don't know what the fuck they thought. They goddamn, I mean, they literally tore that motherfucker.
I had no idea that in the South they use goddamn that much.
Oh, man.
Goddamn.
I mean, really?
I know you just went to Kentucky not too long ago.
I never heard them talk like that.
Yeah,
I didn't know what the fuck they were saying.
This is like backwoods.
Yes.
To hell and back. And I said, look, I don't know what the fuck y'all got going on in here and goddamn.
They searched the car like that.
Yes.
Wow.
I couldn't even goddamn do anything.
If I took a shot for every goddamn, I'd be wasted.
Holy
so is this
crap.
like the new Bobby and Whitney? Is that what's good? Is that where this is gonna go?
No, because she's the standout. With Bobby and Whitney, it was Bobby and Whitney. You know what I mean? It was like a combination. Goddamn, it was a goddamn combination.
Goddamn.
Yeah, this is the couple that their show got canceled because the boyfriend had sexually molested one of her kids.
Oh,
goddamn!
This was the dude.
Goddamn!
That dude is the one that touched her daughter.
I read that somewhere.
Wow.
Allegedly.
Is it me or does he look like Voldemort?
The name that shall not be spoken.
Well, Sam Smith is now considers himself non-binary.
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 He might be a man. He might be a woman. He might just be floating as something.
Sam Smith, the singer.
Oh, Sam Smith.
Yeah. When he was being interviewed by Jamil from the Vice Network, he said, yes, because I do think like a woman sometimes in my head, and I've sometimes sat there and questioned, do I want a sex change? And it's something I still think about, but I don't think it is, Smith said. Well, as far as he didn't make much sense, but yeah. Yep. Sam Smith is now non-binary. He also said, I've always been free in terms of thinking about sexuality, and so I just tried to change that into my thoughts on gender as well. He said, I am a feminine in many ways, and I've almost resented that. So he came out saying he's non-binary. Does anybody care?
No.
No.
You know what I do think is interesting, though, about the
What's
whole
that?
sex change movement?
What's that?
I think if you go so far as to have your penis chopped off and then turn inside out so that men could have sex with you,
then you can be on our Camel Toe Game.
You feel pretty strongly about being a woman.
I guess you do. Now, I wonder if any of these binary people were vaccinated. I wonder if there's a tie in there. Do you think anybody's done a study on that yet, Tom? No.
Vaccination to compare against non-binary.
To see if it makes them trans? Well, we already know that it made
what was Brandon
trans
vaccinated?
black.
He was vaccinated.
Yeah. Okay, so Huffington Post has reported that a former New Jersey priest who was accused of sexually molesting dozens of young boys in the 70s and 80s was found dead in his Nevada home over the weekend, authorities said. John Caparelli's body was discovered Sunday morning during a wellness check. The 70-year-old's death, which was deemed suspicious, is being investigated as a homicide. The Henderson police, the Clark County's coroner's office, said that he has been shot in the neck. Now, but the whole thing this article, so what? There was a molesting priest that was found with gunshots.
I'm pretty sure I saw that episode of Ray Donovan.
But here's the thing. What I found interesting is in here it says that Caparelli's death comes 1 month after his name was listed among 188 priests and deacons that the Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Newark said had been credibly accused of sexual crimes against children. Of those names, more than 100 are dead. So what I'm saying is the Newark Archdiocese released a list of 188 names of priests that were credibly accused of molestation, etc.
And how many are dead?
100 of those 188 names on that list that they released.
So
now,
more than half.
So they're halfway done.
Yeah, they're halfway
Catholic
done. Well,
Church
that's what I was
gets
asking.
the job done.
There is some superhero guy out there that is just taking and just knocking these priests off that list.
Like Punisher status?
Punisher status is going on. It's got to. They released 188 names and 100 of them are dead?
Either Punisher status or the church is behind this shit.
Telling you, man. Something's going on.
Killing themselves?
Like the highest one is
Well,
taking out the ones that are like going to snitch.
They usually just transfer them.
But what I don't get is this guy was kicked out of the Catholic Church, right? He's kicked out. And what does he do? He goes and becomes a teacher at school. Where this guy's crazy. It's a crazy story. He was removed from the Catholic ministry in 1992 and went on to work as a math teacher at Newark's public high school. On the side,
Newark,
he operated
in New Jersey.
On the side, he operated a fetish website out of his home that featured men wrestling. He had his teaching certificate removed in 2011 after the abuse allegations. He then moved to Nevada in 2016.
That's a long time. 92 to 2011?
Yeah.
That's a long time. And he was running
And he used to run a wrestling team.
Years.
I bet he did.
Back in 2011, somebody was speaking to the papers and saying that Caparelli was preying upon young men by recruiting them to his wrestling team. There he'd have them wrestle in Speedo swimsuits, arguing that loose fabric could get caught and injure them. He'd take photos of them and sometimes get on the mat and wrestle with them.
Oh, so disturbing.
So gross.
So sick.
So I take it, Tom, you're not going to go to his funeral?
Sounds like vigilante justice to me.
100 of the 188. Hey, Jack, can we find the guy that's off in all these molesting priests and get him on the show?
Is that him?
That's the guy that died, that they found dead in the house.
The guy with the glasses?
Yes.
He puts up a picture of the Punisher.
Should have put the Pope's head on the Punisher.
All right. Well, I don't know. Let's see. I'm seeing if there's anything else.
Dude, the mob is still alive. They had a mob hit this week.
Wasn't a mob hit.
Okay, what you're referring to is what are you sending me? What are you showing me? What? Huh? Oh, am I going to bring up the dumb fuck standing on the tables at Disneyland?
Oh shit.
Oh shit.
Well, we might as well, fuck them. The mob can wait till next week. Why don't we get into something good?
Wow.
Something that everybody kind of knows about.
The mob was so 2000.
Well, since we what is it, Jack? What you're pointing at your phone? What the fuck does that mean? What, Discord? What do you mean tell? I don't know where I'm looking. You're like giving me Messenger.
What about it
on Discord? What about it?
Well, obviously there's a fucking message.
The last message I have that says somebody wonders why men are impacted by autism. Why don't you just get on the mic and say what you want to say?
Here?
No, I sent you a message on Messenger.
I'm not on Messenger. I'm not on Facebook, man.
Okay.
In a group one?
Everybody knows that whatever I read next in Messenger is coming from you. So
okay,
let's
just move on.
Send it to Discord.
Just read it now. Go into Messenger quick.
No, I got to open up Facebook and all this other kind of stuff.
No, you don't. It's fine. It's fine. You're drawing too much attention. Just move on.
Say it. No.
Too much attention to what?
Just say it, Jack.
Now he doesn't want to be responsible for whatever he messaged me.
No, I don't want to be.
Okay, so I have a message from Jack that needs to be read to everybody on the air. Hang on a second. I'm pulling it up.
Dug your own fucking hole.
Jack says, hey. You all of that for you sending me a message that says, hey? Are you fucking kidding me? You said, hey.
Wow. At least I sent him something that had substance.
Oh, maybe it's in a different... No, that's it. He has one message that he sent to me that said, hey.
Wow.
Whatever, man. Yeah, so I don't know. I saw a bunch of, new social clubs standing on top of tables in the picnic section, being a bunch of freaking... I get it that they're... And I don't really want to delve into this and talk about it too much, but I get it, okay? So the social club at Disneyland, they're patching in a new kid. That's cool. That's fine and dandy and everything. But really, you're going to stand on top of a picnic table?
Yep. That's what they did.
Okay, but here's the thing.
Didn't the person get, knighted? with the big giant keys?
Here's the thing. I understand getting patched. I see this whole new thing of patch ceremonies. I guess that's what it's called. But, standing on a table at a picnic area where people go and eat, say you didn't know the social club community, and you're like, me and my family are going to save some bucks, and we're going to go eat at the picnic tables, and then come to see some people invest standing on picnic tables with about 50 people around.
I don't eat there. Fuck them tables.
Yeah, but...
Doesn't it just kind of look bad?
People standing on tables?
No. People standing on tables with, everyone vested...
I don't know.
I don't know.
This new generation of kids out there doing this stuff, I don't know, man. I think it's pretty disrespectful.
I think it had something to do with actual Keyblade, video game or something.
I'm not talking about their knighting ceremony. They were standing on top of the tables yelling at everybody.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, but say
we gotta wrap this up.
Say if it was Voodoo Crew and the White Rabbits, that would be all over every dang page.
Yeah, well, anybody
we wouldn't do that, though.
Anybody from my club that stood on a fucking table on some dumb shit like that, of course, would be chastised about it. But they're not from my club, so I don't really care.
It's just it's a bad look, though.
I get it. Bad look for who, though? For them?
I just think it looks bad, and I think it looks bad for the community itself.
I don't know.
Say you were a stranger and you didn't know the social clubs. You just see a bunch of vested people standing on picnic tables yelling. I don't know.
I don't think anybody cares.
I care.
I don't.
They're on their own. I don't.
They can knight whoever the fuck they want. And stand
I'm not talking
about the knighting.
I don't know. That's not the part.
The knighting.
It's not the knighting.
Standing on the table.
Yeah.
They stand
the
on
simple
100
fact,
tables.
if no one videotaped it, it would have been our clubs that were on that table, and everyone would have been talking crap.
Yeah. Well. Anyways, we got to wrap this up. Brandon, who do we have next week?
Robin is in contact with the dude from Walt's Frozen Head.
That movie that somebody filmed at Walt Disney World in Disneyland,
super low key,
unauthorized.
Right.
That movie about Walt's head, where the guy walks around with Walt's frozen head and has one day at Disneyland. That's interesting. I want to know how they did it.
We do have the Iron Outlaws scheduled, but we're waiting for confirmation for the Walt's Frozen Head dude first.
All right, Iron Outlaws. Well, we're going to do them both on the same day.
What do we got Thursday? We're going to see. We're rolling out to see Rappaport.
Everybody's going to see Michael Rappaport tomorrow. How many of you guys are going? 25?
Thursday. 25.
Oh, and then what? Your dealer? What is he doing? He's
my good friends from Goodfellas are going.
Goodfellas is sponsoring the outing, and they're giving all the 25 people that are going to Michael Rappaport. They're giving them what?
They're going to give little gift baskets.
Okay, you can have mine. I don't want it.
I appreciate that. I'll take it.
Oh no, never mind.
What if I wanted it?
You can have it.
What is
We'll just split it.
What is the street value of that gift basket?
I haven't been told exactly what's going in it, but I have been told that at least an eighth should be in there.
Oh, yeah, I definitely don't want that shit.
But there might be other swag and stuff too. I don't know. They said that they were going to put together a little.
Yeah, so for all of you potheads that listen to this show that didn't want to get tickets to go see Michael Rappaport, you're missing out. Because
Great, I'm gonna get great. Give me a video game bag. Wink, wink.
All right, well, I'll tell you what, man. It's time to go. And, Jack, do you have something to play us out? We're done. I can shut this down. It's been
Good night. See you next week.
Yeah, that's it. That's all I have to say.
Good night.
We'll see you later. All right, go.
Really, I didn't think that.
But that's the point. If you don't think, you shouldn't talk.
Jake Fight. Tom Backstrom. Stephen Blackshear. Missy Fight.
Executive producer Brandon Morris. Visual media director Chad Mathis. Visual and industrial tech Nathan Anderson. News segment director Raymundo Rosa. Game segment contributor Shanna Henderson. Shelter craft services Aaron Reason.
I have an excellent idea. Let's change the subject.
Down the rabbit hole with idiots.
Well, after this I shall think nothing of falling down the stairs.